Some of the content of Patriots Unfiltered may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
The world's original podcast.
Welcome to Patriots Unfiltered.
You don't read the clips that come through?
In general terms, no, but I can't really read a lot of them.
Do you even like working here?
It's less about getting like sick and more about like I don't want to zit because I touched my face because
A zit? Do people still use zits as
zit
word?
pimple.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What else do you say?
I
What do you
don't
think?
know.
What do you think? Acne went away?
My dad chimes in via text. Troy Brown. Would that qualify as somebody?
That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Uh-oh. You don't want to fight Eddie D.
Christian Barmore in the flesh out there practicing, taking reps.
Did
during
people say
media
we
portion.
missed you a clot?
How many
Yesterday.
guys have missed practice for a personal reason this year?
Half a dozen, I would
That's a
say.
new
Oh,
thing
I
in
think
the
there's got to be
NFL.
more than that.
I need a day.
Paul missed his boy's birth.
That's what I think
To be
the others
here.
are for.
Paul, anti-kids.
Sorry, go ahead,
Still
Evan.
triggered
That's
by
okay.
it.
I'm just.
Evan's like, getting annoyed.
It's okay.
Here to talk football.
It's so true. It's so true, Fred.
This is Patriots Unfiltered.
Presented by Toyota's official website for deals, buyatoyota.com.
All right, welcome to Patriots Unfiltered. It is Tuesday here at Gillette Stadium. Yeah, what are you pointing to the on-air?
Whoa, look at
on-air light here now and everything.
get a
Yeah.
shot
I know you like when
One
I point at
outside the
things
door,
that
too.
Nobody know what we're
No
talking
one can see
at.
that,
So
Evan.
people outside the door can see that we're on air too.
Salty
so-
dogs that are out there are like, what the
Yeah,
hell is
what
that?
the hell?
What are
Look
you
at
doing in
that.
there?
You think you're better than me?
I got to set up a scaffolding.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I do.
Anyway, we're here to talk Patriots because we are on air for the next 2 hours. It's Evan, it's Paul, it's me, it's Deuce, it's Matt in the booth. And tough loss. Although, you know, we're here to emphasize the play of Drake May.
Yes, we
I'm
are.
all in, Freddie. I'm
For
all
two
in.
straight hours.
I thought that first half he was flawless. He really was. Couple drops, but otherwise I think he would have been perfect stats wise. But he had a great game. The defense did not. The coaches probably did not. But something that I wanted to point out, and I always, I do a lot of thinking. I have a long commute, so I think. McVay, after the game, very complimentary toward Drake May.
Yes.
Also very complimentary toward Gonzalez, saying, we decided to avoid him.
Yep.
He's pretty good. And it's great to hear another coach talk about your players that way. But that can have a negative effect, too, in that Belichick used to do the same thing. He used to butter up the opponent sometimes. And in this situation where you got these probably two of the best players for the future that the team has.
Two of the best.
You have an opposing
team.
coach buttering you up, yet your team's losing. And we have to be careful here. I hope that, they didn't take that. I hope they took it the right way in that, we're good, but we're only as good as our team is. Instead of, we're good. How come we're losing? I shouldn't be losing like that. So you have to be careful about how you take that. And even Gerard Mayo mentioned what McVay said about Drake in his interview with EEI. So we have to be careful how these, would-be superstars on the Patriots, take this type of outside compliments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, two young kids too. I mean, what has Gonzalez has played like maybe 6 more games than Matt and then Drake at this point. So, I hear what you're saying. I mean, I think usually Bill would butter guys up before the game, and then afterwards you wouldn't really hear about them. But I mean, I like hearing from McVay. I think everybody respects McVay's takes on quarterbacks. And he said I didn't do a lot of work on him, but people I know and respect did, and thought very highly of him. So. Yeah, it's nice coming out of the game. Get a little flowers for Drake.
It
Sure.
is nice.
Not just us doing it, right?
Yep, it is nice, but
We can still do it.
yeah. But remember, you're still part of a team that's losing, and so if they're losing,
Yeah.
you're losing, and let's get better together.
I think one of the things I've learned, I was thinking yesterday when I did a little film grind myself, watching these teams over the last couple of years, these Patriots teams, it's, the bad teams in the NFL, they're just inconsistent. It's like I think all these teams have some talent mixed into their team, and you might even have a full game like we did against the Bears where it all kind of comes together and it works. But these bad teams over the last few years that haven't made the playoffs, it's just a constant trying to chase consistency and to put together that perfect game. And, maybe if they were a little bit more talented, they'd have more margin for error. You don't need everyone to play perfect every game, which is a little bit where I feel like they're at now. That's what keeps popping up. It's
so
just,
true.
it's like, here we go again. That half the team didn't show up this week.
There's not a lot that separates these teams in the NFL. And like you said, most of it is consistency. If you make these mistakes on a consistent basis, you have a losing record. If you don't on a consistent basis, you usually have a winning record. And if you do it sometimes and not sometimes, you're mediocre.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it sounds so simple when you break it down that way, but I think the hard thing is just looking at the team and saying, yes, there are still talented players, and I'll focus on the defense right now. But there is some talent on this defense, but right now there's not enough talent, and they're not playing together consistently enough to be consistently impactful and stay in games. And I mean, it is really hard, I think, when you're a little bit outmatched. And I thought McVay, I kind of dove into that a little bit yesterday. That was what I was kind of trying to explore, because I heard all these people talking about, well, Gonzalez on the boundary, and so I did dive into that a little bit, and it seemed like, I mean, not to divert off my original point, but it just seemed like you see what a really experienced coordinator does. They see what you're doing, and they say, okay, we're going to make it so that Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp are on this side of the field, and they're going to be going against Del Pettis and the backups,
and where the Patriots
anything.
coaches fell down is that once you realize that,
didn't counter.
Okay, now
Right.
you got to go to man to man.
Right.
Now you've got to counter that, and they seemingly stuck to their plan. I don't know if it's stubbornness or just not seeing what the Rams were doing, but that's the problem. Like, you can have the plan, and maybe on another day, this having Gonzo on the boundary would have worked. But as soon as you see that the other team's adjusting and what they're doing is working for them, you need to adjust again.
Yeah.
I think the Gonzo on the boundary thing is the most overrated storyline coming out of this game.
Tell us why.
Because the way that the Rams play, they motion all the time, right? So if you're traveling with guys in man-to-man coverage and then they're putting those players in motion before the snap, like, now you have to run across the formation with those players and cover those guys while running across the formation. And they actually did very early on in this game. They were in man-to-man. They motioned Nacua across the formation, and Jonathan Jones lost him in the motion, and he went for a 37-yard gain. So what the Patriots did to combat this eventually, and I agree that their plan coming into the game to handle motion was not good. And one of the reasons for that is no longer on the team, and that's Marco Wilson, right? But in general, their plan to handle motion wasn't great. But instead of just running around with all the receivers as they were motioning, they just stuck to their sides of the field and said, whoever comes out your side of the field, that's who you have. Now,
but okay, so they stuck to their side of the field, but let's just say, on your side of the field, Nacua ends up in the slot.
Yep.
Does that still take Gonzo out of the play because he's taking the boundary? Like, I don't know. I'm asking.
But yes, in theory, yes. But what was happening was that Gonzo was starting on Kupp or Nacua, and McVay was motioning those guys across the other side of the formation. And then the Patriots then either needed to switch it or they needed to stay with the man, which was difficult to do. It's difficult to do that.
So why is, like, I see teams doing that all the time. Why is that difficult?
It's difficult to stick with the man, because that player now has a head of steam coming into his route.
Yeah.
Right. He's gaining momentum as he's coming into the route, and it's also difficult to leverage the route at that point because of the way that the player is moving at the snap. So, like, the other thing that I've heard a lot of from this game, this isn't where I wanted to go, by the way, to start, but
no, it's okay.
The other place that the other thing I heard a lot about coming out of this game is, well, why didn't they double? Right? Why didn't they double Nacua out of the game? Well, again, when you're motioning the receiver all the time before the ball is snapped, and you're lining in these condensed formations like the Rams do, you can't. It's really difficult to then double the receiver.
So I think this is interesting because, like you said, this was a big narrative coming out of the game. I'm sure the Patriots coaches did their homework, and this is what the Rams do.
Yes.
They motion all the time.
Correct.
How are we going to combat that?
Yes.
Are you saying that they didn't have a good plan?
100%.
Okay, so then that's a problem.
Yeah, that to me, the two biggest problems with their plan had nothing to do with where Gonzo was playing.
Yeah.
The biggest one to me, or the two biggest ones, were their plan to handle motion. Are we passing it off? Are we staying locked into our man? I'll use a deuce. Are we banjoing this? Or what are we doing to handle the motion? Right? So too many times early on in this game, two guys were going with one guy, and Nakua was just wide open, right? Because they're just motioning him, and nobody, they're not passing it off the motion correctly. The other issue that I thought with this game plan was blitzing Stafford 18 times. You're going up against a 16-year veteran quarterback, really good quarterback in this league. He's not Caleb Williams. You can't just blitz him like crazy and then expect him to be flustered by it. So they're coming in there.
Why do you think they did that?
I couldn't tell you. The only guess that I have is that they knew the Rams' offensive line was banged up. They figured that they could cover the receivers, and they just thought that they could expose the offensive line by pressuring. So it wasn't just the cup touchdown, right? Like, they brought pressure a lot in this game.
Well, do you think it was also an admittance that straight up we can't handle this team?
I guess. I mean, maybe, but you have Keon White, you get Barmore back, that you have some guys.
Barmore was back. How many snaps did he do?
20.
21, I think.
Yeah. And all really on passing downs, right?
Not 13 and 7.
Down to
13 and 7? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they had. I don't think that would be an accurate way to look at it. Just because I do think you have some guys that can win one-on-one matchups. And so my biggest gripe with it was that the corners were just exposed. They're out on islands on these receivers, and Kupp and Nakua are good players. And so when you leave them...
and smart players.
When you leave them exposed like that, really, for the most part, you have maybe a single high safety in the middle of the field. There's nobody at the intermediate level. There's no robber help or anyone at that second level of the defense to help inside. So they're just out there, on islands with these receivers. And to the Rams' credit, their receivers won the matchups. That's it.
So that was, and I think that it was telling when Gerard Mayo was asked about the plan for Gonzo on the boundaries. I don't want to talk about that now. I think that maybe he didn't agree with the game. It sounded to me like he didn't agree with the game plan. I don't know.
Well, I
have a problem with that.
Well,
he's the head coach.
Well,
Right.
no, but sometimes, okay, you have a defensive coordinator and they convince you, this is the way to go. And you give in to the people that you hired to do the job, and then you regret it later. I'm not, maybe ahead of time, he wasn't as, decided on it as it seemed to be afterwards that, that wasn't a good game plan. That's what did you hear that too? When he was asked about that, and he said, I'm not going to talk about that right now.
He said he thought it was the best thing to do, and I can understand the rationale. I know a lot of people look at it and say, well, so now he's just covering Demarcus Robinson. What, why are we doing that?
You mean Covington?
No, Christian Gonzalez is covering Robinson
okay.
on the Rams.
I see what you're saying.
But at the same time, the thing I keep going back to is, well, if you start Gonzo on Nakua and then they just motion Nakua across the formation and you switch it anyways, then what difference does it make which receiver he technically lined up over to start the play? And that's all McVay was going to do, and that's all he did do. So eventually you just have to kind of win matchups, and that's just the way that it goes. And I actually thought in the second half they did a much better job. Nakua had 6 for 117 or 5 for 117 at halftime. He had 1 catch in the second half. So I thought that they were
That's when Kupp did all his damage.
were able to kind of get him under control a little bit. So
a combination of that and the too much blitzing spell defeat.
Yeah, that's how I would look at it.
Yeah.
Mike, what did you have? You look like you wanted to get in on the...
I forgot. I know.
Because
We were in the flow.
Because I think on offense, they did move the ball. It was their most productive offensive game of the season, even though, only 22 points. But for them, that was an improvement. I think they left points on the field,
Of course.
for sure.
Red zone.
So it could have been better. But but the defense let him down. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. I wonder, maybe this is, something more for discussion, is are the Patriots' game plans defensively easily discernible quickly, and are they adjusting in game?
They're
like
easy
they
to
did
offend.
With Bill? They're easy to offend. That's good.
I just don't think that
No.
they, this week, and I'm not saying that they have done this all year, but it felt like they just rolled out the same plan they used against the Bears and expected it to work again.
That's
Yeah.
my point.
And I don't. You have to be a little bit more malleable than that. Like you have to game plan
God, yeah.
opponents. So they played 60% man coverage in this game. They played 60% coverage against Chicago. They blitzed 18 times this game. They blitzed 17 times against Chicago. Like it was just sort of the
Man,
same.
if that's true,
button.
that's scary because you're comparing Caleb Williams to a 16-year
That's
Right.
my, that's
Right.
my
Veteran
point.
with two
Like we're all
experienced
getting caught up.
receivers.
I would
with
even
Gonzo
say in
on
like
the
3
boundary.
weeks,
It's
that
like-
same thing against Caleb Williams probably wouldn't be a wise choice.
Right.
Like he's going to get better. He's going to start to understand that a little bit more. Here's my problem, and I everything Evan said about the coverage, I do think when they play well and everything looks better and everybody starts talking about all the great things. When they play badly, or it's not because they play badly, it's all coaching. It's like Tennessee. He's coaching to lose. They didn't go
Right.
for two. They cost him a chance. They didn't know what the wind was. This guy's got to go. Then they win the next game,
right.
and
Coach of the
everything
year.
is great.
Right.
Everything is great. They got the future is all bright. Then they have this game where two really good players catch 100 yards worth of passes, and all the coaches got to go. It's all because
Right. That's not fair.
Might it be that the other team's players were better than his team's players this week? They were able to make some plays. I actually thought the Patriots did a really good job of finding a way to hang around and hang around and hang around, and finally at the end of the game have a chance to steal it.
They had the chance to win the game at the end.
Like
yeah.
the whole, I really got annoyed post game with the Ben Volen question to Gerard Mayo.
That was a really unfair question.
Are you coaching scared? I think he said.
Yeah. Yes, I am, Ben.
And there's a better way. I understand what his point is. I won't get bogged down in semantics. I think he just meant, do you need to be more aggressive?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you need to be more aggressive? Would have been a much better way to ask the same exact question.
Yeah.
Okay? Can't you possibly look at it a different way and say, yeah, I'm not telling you I agree with every in-game decision that Gerard Mayo made, but so it's 4th and goal from the 2. You had the ball at the 5. You had 3 plays from the 5. You only managed to get to the 2. So maybe he's thinking, if I don't get in, the game's kind of over.
Yeah.
Let me take some points and extend the game a little bit here.
Right.
And maybe that's why when they scored to make it the 9-point game this time, in Jacksonville when they did that 15-9, they went for 2 with 8.5 minutes left. This time there was 12:45 left, and it went from 15-9, and this time they chose to kick it. Maybe this time he's saying, we're hanging on right here.
Yeah.
Let's just extend the game.
Keep chipping
away, get it to 8. Now, obviously, he couldn't have foreseen you getting an extra point blocked.
Right.
But maybe that's what he was trying to do. Again, I'm not telling you I agree with
At
every...
the end of the day, like you said, they had the ball in their hands with plenty of time.
Yeah, time
down
wasn't
6.
a factor.
Right.
Time wasn't a factor.
Time
They
wasn't a
they
factor.
needed to get down the field and score,
Right.
and they weren't able to do it. But I'm not telling you we should build a shrine to Gerard Mayo for finding a way to only lose by 6 on Sunday. I think you kind of watched the game. It felt a little bit more lopsided than that. But can't you make an argument for him that by making some of the decisions that he did, like we got the post-game email that was like, well, there's 13 points. They would have won the game if he had just gone for it. Like, why are we just blindly assuming they would have gotten it
Right.
every time?
Right.
No, they struggled.
They were
Sure.
clearly going to go for it on 4th and 1 when they were down, whatever it was, 11. No, they were down 9. They cut
9.
it to 6 with that field goal.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were down 9. And they were going to go for it, and I think they had some kind of a trick play dialed up.
Oh, yeah.
Looked like
Yeah,
a
they
direct
did.
snap.
It was going to be a direct snap, and Jalen Polk commits a false start.
Right.
Like, I just, there has to be a happy medium between the coach needs to lose his job every time they lose a game, and everything is great. This team is playoff bound when
Right.
they win a game. Because
Right.
when they beat Chicago, people were talking about a path.
Oh yeah.
And now the very next week they lose, and the guy's got to go.
On my part.
No,
What's that? No. Some people were really saying
for
it.
us.
Yeah.
No.
Not for us. I mean, one of the major Boston radio stations said they were going to go 6-1 down the stretch. The morning show.
Well, they could
Well,
win.
one person on
They could
there.
win 6 in a row.
Is that not one of your channels? That was your shows? One of your shows?
But I think
it's
the
not
only,
one of my shows. It's on the other channel.
The only gripe that I have with the in-game decisions that he makes are, it doesn't feel like there's a rhyme or reason to a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I think that the inconsistencies is just a little odd. And to Paul's point, each situation is different, and you have to go on a case-by-case basis. But they go for 2 in London. They don't go for 2 this time. They line up to go for it on 4th down at the end of the game, down 9, but they didn't go for it on 4th and 2 from the goal, 4th and goal from the 2 earlier. Like, there's just, it
Yeah.
just seemed, and by the way, he's not following the nerds either. Like, the math is against him too on most of these. So it doesn't feel like there's a process.
No, I mean, if we're going to have to be patient, because yes, he's never been a head coach before, but he's also never been a coordinator before. So, like, his experience of making in-game decisions, I don't know if he's ever had to do that.
The 2-point conversion thing is odd to me. I said it in the post game. I wrote it in my notes that posted this morning that Evan just said. I don't have to agree with your philosophy, but you probably should have one.
Should have one. Yeah.
If you believe in down 9, this is what we do, then that's probably what you should do. Because they went to great lengths to explain to us about understanding what you need.
But I do think, having the feeling of the flow of the game and the conditions, and takes into, you have to take that into consideration. And even then, he doesn't have a lot of experience.
But I think the flow of this game should have led to going for 2.
Yeah.
Now, I would kick it down 9. I would kick it every time to make it a 1-score game.
Yep.
But if you believe in the whole knowing what you need thing,
Right.
in
Maybe
the
he
game,
doesn't.
you were moving the ball much better in this game than you were in that Jacksonville game, and there was more time left.
Yeah.
So if you didn't get it, you had more time to make up for the fact that you were still down 2 scores with an offense that was performing at a higher level.
Yeah.
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 So that's like the contradictory,
Yeah.
decision there
Well, I
to
think
me
it's-
is
I think it's-
curious.
Last time I listened to Evan, this time I'm not going to listen to Evan.
Right.
Not me.
Not you.
Not me.
The other Evan, Evan
I know,
Rothstein.
yes.
It's your
Yeah.
fault.
But also kind of me because it's the nerds.
Right.
I
Yeah.
get it.
You are a
Yeah.
nerd. I'm reminded a little bit of Dan Campbell, though, in his first year, how he seemed so gung-ho, and you just knew what to expect, and it was like, take it or leave it. We're going for
Right.
it. We're going to be aggressive
Yeah,
always.
that game here was just illustration
That's
of that.
exactly what I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
Like that game here in 22, everybody eviscerated Dan Campbell because they went for 4th down like 5 times and
Yeah.
were 0 for 5.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, maybe.
Yeah.
Like it definitely put them in a tough spot. But
Yeah.
over the course of time, now the Lions are really good in the go for it situations because they practiced it. They practice what they preach, and now that they go for it all the time on 4th down, they are one of the best 4th down conversion teams in the NFL.
It also cost them a trip to the Super Bowl.
It might have, but it's
Yeah.
just a philosophy
Right.
thing,
Well,
right?
that's what I mean of
Have a philosophy one way or the other. That's all.
Yeah, but and I'd use the Chargers as an example too of a team that was very aggressive on 4th and never.
But this is why I
never
say
became
I don't have
Detroit.
to agree with your philosophy,
Right.
but
Have one.
I think it's important to have one.
Yeah.
Well, and your philosophy becomes your identity. That's who you become as a team.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
that's what's missing too. I mean, I think that's especially on defense. Like, I don't see any identity other than Christian Gonzalez is pretty good coverage man.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, they're starting to emerge, and that's Drake Maye. I would say almost entirely he is their identity, and that's what's another part of going back to what I said at the top, where it's just hard week to week when you don't know who you are or what you can hang your hat on or what can we just go back to this? We know we can do this. Let's go back. Like, they can't even pick up a 3rd and 1 right now.
Well,
you know?
But to go back to what Paul said, knowing you can do certain things, a lot of times it's because you know you have good players that can do it.
Yeah.
And right now they don't have the horses.
Yeah, and you can
so
make,
they can't consistently do those things.
but
that
you
they
can
wanna
make the
do.
argument for what Evan and Mike are talking about. Like in Dan Campbell's first year, they didn't have the horses to convert those.
Right,
often
and
enough.
they didn't.
And that's why they went 3-13-1.
Right.
But he was letting his team know this is how we're going to play.
Like,
Yep.
get on
And,
board.
and,
or,
and we're going to get good enough that we're going to start to
Yep.
convert
Yeah.
these.
Yep.
And I do think this is why I'm not exonerating Mayo. Like the 4th and 2, I think you can make a solid argument either way. I don't think this is one of those like that's a terrible decision. That's you should fire him no matter what he did. But I right now would be to the point. I'm 3-8. I'd be going for those.
Yeah.
Because I would be wanting to try to establish the stuff that Mike is talking about, that Detroit did, that Evan's talking about with Dan Campbell. Like, this is how we're going to play. They keep saying we want to be a tough team to play against. We want to be a pain in the ass to play against.
Yep.
That's a pain in the ass.
Yep.
When you go for 4th downs and you force that defense, you know what? Don't just be happy with 3 and out. Don't run off the field. Oh, 4th down, we did our job. No. You got to stop us another play.
Yeah, and it sends a message to your defense too. Okay, we don't get it.
Hard to
They're
play
on there
against.
too.
Yeah.
Now you do your job.
And I thought it was telling that there was Rams coaches that were very surprised on that particular one that they kicked the field goal. They were expecting them to go for it. So, and again, I'm not killing Mayo. I think by doing it the way he did, he eventually gave his team a chance to win at the end. It's undeniable because if they had gone for it and gotten stopped, that's probably the end of the game right there. It's 21-10, I think it was at the time, and the Rams were red hot.
Yeah.
So they make it 28-10. Forget about it.
Yeah. So I think as Mayo sees more things, as he, is involved in more of this situational football, he'll develop his own philosophy and his own identity. But it's going to take time, and you either be patient or I think you can become one of those teams where you're cycling through coaches. And I hope they don't do that.
No, I wonder what his offseason is going to look like, and if he, tries to commit to one side or the other, maybe. Looking at this year as a whole, I think that's the bowling question. Do you need to be more aggressive based on that? Do you want to, impart more confidence in your team? But just one thing that kind of sticks in my craw is that, Fred, you said that they're not talented, and it's like, I want Ramondre Stevenson to be able to pick up a frickin' yard when you need it. I got to have a yard. If you're going to give a running back in the middle of his 20s an extension for 3 years, I want to believe that that's a guy who I think, David Montgomery, Jameer Gibbs, I'd feel pretty good 4th and 1, them going for it.
You watch the I
don't
agree,
have Penny Sewell
but
on
you watch the game. You watch the game, and you watch those plays. Did he not pick it up because of him, or it's just no one could have picked it up? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Well, I mean, he would have probably picked it up week 1, that week when he was bouncing out guys and making something out of nothing. Look, you're right. There's no question. The offensive line, it's all connected. And if he's getting hit 3 yards in the backfield, it's hard to have that kind of confidence. But at the same time, here we are in week 12, and we can't get a yard. That's the bottom line. We can feel great about Drake Maye, but if you're going to be a tough team, 3rd and 1, that should be a money down for a tough team.
I haven't loved their play calls in those situations. It feels very vanilla, like we're just going to run Ramondre into the line of scrimmage and hope he can get a yard. I'll say it again. Why Drake Maye's legs are not a factor in those situations is beyond me. Like, even if he's just there to hold the backside of the defense for an extra beat to maybe create a cutback lane, it just doesn't make any sense to me why you have this extremely mobile quarterback and then you get into 3rd and 1 and you don't incorporate it or make the defense respect it.
That's
at
got
all.
to be coming.
It's got to be coming.
Red zone, short yardage.
But let's go back to establishing who you want to be. Maybe. And again, maybe I'm thinking too much for Mayo and Van Pelt, but maybe we could have Drake Maye bail us out every time, but we want to be a team that when we need a yard, we can run Ramondre Steve,
but he can still run
into the line.
You can still run him though. It's just run a read option.
Make Drake part of the threat.
What's wrong with doing it the way Evan said, like the way Buffalo beat Kansas City?
No, there's nothing wrong with it.
I don't think that was
Josh Allen.
Yeah. But I don't think that was well, that's because they couldn't line up and run. No, it's 4th and 2, and they said, we're going to put the ball in the hands of our best player, and he's going to make a play because he's tougher than them, and we're not going to kick a field goal to make it 5. We're going to get this 1st down, and we're going to close this game out on offense.
Yeah.
Drake May's your best player on offense.
No, I know.
Right now.
Yeah.
So putting the ball in his hands, I think that's coming. I know they don't want him to run as much.
Right.
And I think they're right for not wanting that. But what is it, 3 for 10 now in the last 2 games in the red zone?
Yeah.
I
Gotta find a way.
got to think a zone read or two might help that.
And for a while, they were pretty good in the red zone, right?
Well,
They had a
Gerard
stretch.
continues to tell us how they had touchdowns on like 8 of their previous 9 trips. Like, great. Like,
Now we're in the doldrums. You got to get out of it.
I just what you said off the top of the show about gassing up Drake Maye. I would be shocked if he doesn't get to the podium tomorrow and talk about the interception more than he talks about the good things. Like that's just the vibe that he's given from the jump. Like I made some great plays, but I also had the ball in my hands with a chance to win the game, and I threw it to the other team.
Yeah.
And I just feel like he's win or lose, right? Like where he could throw for 400 yards in a loss, and I don't think he's going to be satisfied with losing. So I don't necessarily look at that. I honestly look at it in the other direction, where I hope he doesn't get too down on himself for the way that some of these end of games have gone, because he played fantastic for 58 minutes on Sunday. His last 2 plays of the game were his worst 2 plays.
yeah, and the sack isn't getting nearly as much.
No, the sack
attention
was
it
just as
should.
bad. But he played, I had him with 15 plus plays to 3 minus plays through the first 58 minutes of the game. I mean, just outstanding. Like, he was just incredible. And in structure, like Paul's thing, right? Like, not running around and making plays like that, like making plays from the pocket and making throws on time, in rhythm, against pressure.
You know what else he did a lot of?
That joy to watch.
That we
It was fun.
You know what else I thought he did better in this game than I've seen him is just taking the easy money every once in a while, just checking it down, tossing one. I mean, no big yardage plays, but
Hunter Henry, sit down.
some of those guys, especially young guys, they just want to show you the arm every time, And he has that. He certainly made enough of those throws.
Yeah.
But just the willingness to throw it to Hunter Henry once in a while. Even Stevenson, even though Stevenson didn't do much with him, I think he had 4 catches for 16 yards. Just the willingness to take the check down at times, showing another step to me in his maturation
and the pressure was
process.
coming.
It
and
was,
he either stepped one way or another. I don't think he had one ball batted down. I think there might have been one
It was
tipped.
tipped, I think.
Yeah,
there was one tip.
Yeah.
The third down throw to Pop Douglas. I watched that a few different times where he came across his body.
Safety blitz coming from one side. He jumps into the hit on the other side, sort of adjusted his arm angle, and threw it this way.
Right on the
money. 3.
Right on
and
it.
it allows Demario Douglas
Like
to turn it up
20 yards, 26 yards. Yeah.
I think it was a no look.
That one was crazy.
Like watching it from the end zone angle, because he's got the safety or the linebacker right there that's dropping off the line of scrimmage, and he's playing a game with that linebacker, trying to keep him from falling underneath Douglas's route. So he's staring to his right, and Douglas is crossing to his left, and he's like this, and then at the last second he throws it to his left,
right where it needed to be.
And like to be able to throw that from that platform. On the money like that, like it's one thing to complete the pass, but to throw it to him in stride so that he can turn upfield, it's a special throw.
That's the other
his
thing.
Eyes are always downfield.
That's the other thing that noticeably I saw improvement was the accuracy, especially that first half. Every ball was right where the receiver needed it to be.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just a shame that it didn't end up in a W, but he had a really good game.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Like, I mean, I've watched Mac Jones, as a rookie and go into his career, and it felt like he, in the early part of the, let's not get carried away, but never felt like, wow, Mac's really improving. Like, it just kind of felt like he was what he was. Like, I really feel you can tangibly see how Drake Maye has improved. I mean, his footwork, just how comfortable he looks in the pocket. I mean, we watched these JT O'Sullivan things. I mean, I know Phil Evan does his own breakdown too, where you really highlight the footwork. That was one of the early things, a lot of the video they did with him, and just some of that subtle stuff, like you can really see the progress that this kid is making. And, that to me, like we knew he had the arm and we knew he had the size and the physical talents were all there, but I think you've really seen him improve, and that's what's just so encouraging to me, because I don't remember feeling like, wow, Mac is really making strides. Like he was just kind of there, and Mac was who he was, but with Drake, however many games we've watched him for 3 months now, I mean, It's noticeable. It's noticeable the way that kid's
when
playing.
he was coming out of college, the game he played on Sunday was the game that everybody told me he couldn't play, which was just short and intermediate throws in rhythm from the pocket, not the deep ball, not the out of structure stuff, but just playing conventional offense, that he wouldn't be consistent enough with his accuracy because of his footwork and his mechanics and all this other stuff, that he would lose control of the ball too often. And on Sunday, that's how he played. Like his average air yards was like 5.4 yards. He had one throw over 20 yards in the air. Like that was the offense. Like it was conventional short and intermediate passing. Thought it was a great game plan against this Rams defense. It's a great pass rush. You don't want him holding the ball forever.
And they were good.
Yeah.
Like it came in with a lot of reputation for those young guys, and they were good.
Yeah.
They flashed, all of them.
Yeah.
Can I ask you guys a question? Is there any part of you that worries though? And I don't want to get negative on Maye, but
Gotta worry.
the Maye sprays. Like, do you worry that that's going to be a thing with him? That he's going to have a couple throws every game that aren't what we're looking for, and might go to the other team? And is there a part of you that worries he's not going to be able to clean these things up as he continues in his career?
I don't have much.
Yeah, he had to. I mean, the pick was obviously, I guess, what you're getting at.
A little bit. I mean,
that was kind of the only one that I really thought he sprayed.
Maybe you guys are right. Maybe he just overthrew it no matter where Demario Douglas was. But I think there was a miscommunication on that. I'm not telling you it wasn't Drake's fault. It might have been. Maybe he thought he was going to sit in the thing, but maybe Douglas was right not to sit in that cover 2 hole. I was doing a lot of cover 2 hole.
Well,
the
maybe
very
he'll
least
tell
on
us
the
about it
post-game show.
tomorrow. Maybe we can get a more in-depth
It was actually
discussion.
tricks.
At the very least, you
No,
kind
I know what I
of
mean.
you should have one eye back at the quarterback to see what's going on, right?
So it depends
No.
what he's
I mean,
supposed
if
to.
he's
It depends
clearing
what I
out-
don't know what he's supposed to do. Like like what Mike just said. Like I don't know what his job is on that. He might have looked at it and said, "I can clear it." Like they're sitting here now. I personally think that there's been a lot of. I heard some talk yesterday that could have been a touchdown. Like if he holds it a split second longer and he allowed him to clear where he ended up being open. All the guys that were back there, as Evan just said, that was a 3. They're reacting to the
yeah.
quarterback, to
Right.
the throw.
Right.
Yeah, so
right.
they're in a tricks coverage or poach really, where like the safety that takes Henry's number 3 to the strong side to the passing strength, so he's like locked into a crosser from Henry, so he's going to take that safety with him, and then the route design is that Pop is going to fill in that space. So once that safety attaches to Henry, Drake's supposed to throw to Pop. So that's where he was going with the read. I mean, like in terms of like should he have sat or should he have kept going? I don't know.
I mean, certainly
can't
Drake,
even
I
answer
thought,
that.
did the perfect thing the quarterback should do and say, no, it was me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's on me.
I just thought the throw was high anyways. Like
It may have been. That's why I said
Yeah.
Mike might be right. That might have been a spray.
And Demontre Jacobs, the one hurry that I had him allowing one-on-one was on that play, and I think that contributed maybe a little bit. He didn't, wasn't able to really step into the throw because there was pressure, but he, looking at it from the end zone angle, if it's Hunter Henry, who's 6'5", then maybe you can make a case that Pop Douglas would have been able to catch that. But I think with Pop, being what he is, I just don't see him being able to catch it.
Yeah, it seemed something was wrong. The timing was off there because
Yeah.
as Pop left, I mean, the ball was way over.
Oh, yeah.
Like the safety who caught it was about 6-7 yards behind Pop.
Yeah, that's why Mike
Yeah.
might be right. He
Yeah.
might have just overshot everything.
Yeah.
I will say live, when the ball left his hands, because you could see Douglas kind of flashing,
yeah.
I was like, oh, they got a shot for a chunk play here.
Yeah.
And then, obviously you saw
But
what ended
the
up
way
happening.
the way Maye was leading receivers throughout the game, it seems weird that all of a sudden he's throwing behind a guy. So there was something
it wasn't
off
thrown
there.
behind him. He thought he was going to be here. The question is, was Douglas right to keep going, or was Maye wrong?
Well, that's what I mean. Like
to-
if the
to-
play
to-
was for him to
assume
keep
that
going,
he was going to stop.
you would, Maye.
Like he
I
didn't
don't-
miss. Like literally, the ball ended up 15 yards away from Demario Douglas.
Yeah.
he didn't underthrow him by that much.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He thought he was going to be here. You can make an argument that he overthrew it, regardless. Like Evan's point,
Yeah.
there's no way Douglas is catching that.
Right.
Because he's not big enough. I would probably agree with that. That
Yeah.
maybe it wasn't a great throw,
Yeah.
but somebody didn't read it right.
Yeah. Speaking of
Don't you
smaller
think?
guys,
Am I
No, I
taking
didn't.
too much liberty
Yeah,
there?
I'm not gonna guess
I don't know who it was.
like who it was, but I felt like I kind of knocked Drake for the throw. Like I didn't think it was catchable for a 5'8" receiver. Like if you have T Higgins in a year and he's 6'4" and he's coming over the middle, like maybe he could have elevated and made that catch, but not with Pop. No.
One guy I want to call out who he's starting to grow on me is your guy, Marcus Jones, and not just for his receiving. I mean his returning.
Starting to grow on.
He, like the more and more I see him putting his nose in and run support, like small guy, but he is not afraid to get dirty, and make tackles up near the line. So I got to give him a lot of credit for that. So I'm hoping that.
Well, welcome.
I'm hoping that his coverage skills, continue to improve. But he's a good little player for the Patriots.
Good player.
Yeah.
It's just unfortunate he's little.
He's 5 foot nothing.
That's just always going to be something that the other team is probably going to look to target. He's it's something you're going to have to deal with if you play him on defense in the slot.
Well, you're going to have to figure out his role.
But I love
he's
what
not
you're
a
saying,
boundary
though,
corner.
No, and he's
Fred
quick
with the boundary corner.
He can stick, but I mean, I love seeing him on offense a little bit. I mean, I think
it was good to see that.
Getting him involved.
I like that too.
Continuing to just try to produce explosive plays and put your explosive players in position with the ball.
I thought the second snap was even better because they built off the first snap. I don't think we've seen enough of that where they call something early on in the game and then they run a similar action later in the game, but it's built off of it into something different.
Yep.
So to see them give him the end around now puts it in the defense's head. Okay, they will hand it to him. So now we fake it and then we throw the screen going in the other direction. I thought the screen should have had more yards, honestly. I thought.
And why do you think it didn't?
The running back.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So I got some, not from Fred. I mean, in full defense of Fred here, you weren't the one. As Matt was really sort of adamant. Like I just thought there was some plays to be made with the running back in space in that game. I thought a couple of those checkdowns should have been more than 4-yard gains. Again, I don't know why this seems to be the only running back in the league that when you recover your own fumble, it's okay.
Yeah.
That's 5 now. 5 fumbles for a running back in one season is a lot of fumbles, right?
Yeah.
So I had him on the bad list and got a lot of pushback for it.
It's
And
been
that
brewing.
play that you're talking about is one that really stuck out in my mind. I don't know how that guy was able to make that tackle.
Yeah, it's been brewing with him, I think, a little bit. I thought some of this week I thought it was a little bit better. Against Chicago, I did not think he saw the field well, running the ball between the tackles. This week I thought it was a little bit better, but he doesn't make anybody miss. That whatever the attrition of the season, whatever it is.
I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, he doesn't break tackles anymore. He's in space, or he's got a defensive back to beat, or whatever, and he.
Do you think that the early fumbling has limited him, has changed his style enough where he's not as explosive?
It's a good point. Like maybe he feels though, he's got to protect the ball, so he can't be as creative with the football in his hands as he wants to. But to Deuce's point, when you're paying a running back like they're paying him, when you're 1-on-1 with the safety. Like I would like to see you break that tackle. I mean that's what you're paying him
Evan
for.
talking about the sequencing the plays a little bit, with a much different type of plays, but kind of similar to the way they set up the Jalen Polk touchdown in Chicago. They showed the formation with Polk on the right side. They ran the ball out of that formation, showed that Polk would come down and make the block. They give the same look to the left side, and this time they sneak him out for an easy touchdown.
Right.
I think that's I think Van Pelt has done a better job of sort of, it's never going to be perfect, and no one's ever going to be. I was never happy with Josh McDaniels either. No one's ever going to just say, wow, every play call was exactly what I would have done. No one's ever going to say that.
No.
Unless
they all work.
Right. I know, I'm going to come to the defense of Van Pelt a little bit. I think now, look, if the offense falls apart over the last 6 games, I'll change my mind. But any calls for his job or for him to be replaced going into next season, I think is crazy. I think he's done a really nice job. Like, they have no talent.
I think he has too.
On that side of the ball besides Drake. Like, they have no line. They have no receivers. Their running back is average right now, I would say.
Yeah. They got Henry.
They have Henry. They have Pop Douglas, whose usage is really starting to be very good, I think. Slants, crossers, gadget plays. Like, they're getting him involved in the ways they should. and Drake's playing great. And so just because he's not, the sexy hire, he's not Ben Johnson or something like this, you're going to change offensive coordinators on Drake Maye going into year 2? Like that, I think is just crazy.
I agree.
Like that's a terrible thing to do for
especially
your young quarterback.
if Drake is really comfortable with him.
Well, all you have to do is watch this week's Patriots Unfiltered TV show.
Oh.
And you'll hear my take on Alex Van Pelt.
Can you let me know what you
Look
said?
forward to that.
It's right there next to you, in writing.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
you wrote it out?
I'll check that out
I
during
write
the
the script out every week.
yeah.
I'll check that
Our
out
producer needs to see the script
when
before I
Fred
do
when
it.
Fred's food is here and he eats that. I will.
Yeah,
You just hear so much
peruse
of that. Like, if Brian Dable gets fired by the Giants, the Patriots should hire him as offensive coordinator. It's like, okay, let's just throw out the playbook. We'll replace the entire
Right,
system.
then you
Yeah.
become
Right.
one of those
You're gonna
teams.
Yeah,
Praise
like
him.
that's a great
No,
idea.
I'm keep Alex. Let's start it
agree.
right now.
I know. There's a lot of work to be done, but I feel pretty good at this moment. Like, I'm not sure. I can't quite, get my temperature test because on one hand, I'm, frustrated, certainly with the defensive side of the ball. But when you really legitimately feel like you have the quarterback, like even when when Mac was playing well, I think you were still kind of like, yeah, but is it ever going to be good enough? And with Drake, it feels like it can be good enough, and they just have to build around him. They've got a lot of work to do, but
they need to do that.
I'm not sure Mac ever had a game as good as that one.
Oh, I don't.
I would
I
say
mean, he
Mac
made some
against
plays.
Cleveland.
yeah.
The Cleveland one
Yeah.
is one that stands out. Mike and I talk about it a lot. The
Yeah.
throw to Bourne,
Yeah.
the throw to Henry.
Yeah.
The game against
Yep.
the Ravens, he had a decent game.
I also had 3 turnovers.
Remember
game.
that?
Yeah.
No.
Had some really good throws in that game.
Yeah, I thought he did.
But he
Yeah,
also
but
turned the ball over.
Yeah, he was a mess.
cried.
Well,
And
I
he
mean-
cried
Yeah, that happened too.
and ended his tenure. To be honest with
Yeah,
you.
yeah.
What about the win against Miami here? Was that a good game for him?
Yeah.
No.
Not only not a
Not
good
against
game,
Tua.
never happened.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he ever beat Miami. Well, certainly not with Tua.
Yeah.
Did Tua not play?
He beat the Skylar Thompson Dolphins, right? Was that still
Yeah,
Mac?
I thought that. I
There were
thought he had a
there were
good
couple,
game.
That's the end of
there were a couple
22,
backup
right?
wins, but
All right, let's get to the TPX hotline, 855-PATS 500. We'll start with Christian in Virginia. What's up, Christian?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
I agree. I was on Fred's boat going into the game. I thought this might have been the game. But, I can't say I'm too upset with the outcome. I think our pick is still going to be pretty high, and I think we saw a lot of promise out of Drake Maye. It was funny you guys started talking about the running backs because that's what I was calling in about. I think it's a sneaky need for the team. And looking at some of the free agents and also the draft, I don't know if we'd really want to use one of our draft picks on a running back this year. There are some older people bouncing around the league right now that I'd be interested in if we could get them at a decent price. Guys like James Conner and Najee Harris, although I know Najee Harris is looking for money there. I think another name to look out for is Javonte Williams from the Broncos. He hasn't shown the most promise, but seems like the situation there in Denver is a little shaky with Peyton at coach.
He's doing too well. He's
he-
lost his job. He doesn't look like a guy who's ever responded to the torn ACL. He's not been the same guy to me, Williams.
Yeah.
But I would take a flyer on him because
him coming out.
I think it's kind of like the old Bill theory of there's talent there and it's a depressed asset. Take
Yeah.
a shot.
I disagree. I'd look at the draft. I'd look at just day 3. I do think it's a need, but I'm kind of
You can do
over
both.
veteran running backs. Like you signed Antonio Gibson for a couple years.
Yeah.
You've got Ramondre under contract. Get some young legs. Get somebody else. In
Depends
the pipeline.
entirely on who it is. Like, I would have obviously been in your
Thanks,
camp, but like,
Christian.
look what Saquon Barkley's done for Philadelphia. Josh Jacobs. A lot of those
Yeah.
guys changed teams last year. Joe Mixon was dominant again last night for Houston. A lot of those running backs changed teams last year, and almost all of them have had an impact. Jacobs has been good with Green Bay. Barkley's been great with the Eagles. Mixon's been really good with Houston. We saw it firsthand. Mixon had a great game here in Foxborough. So I don't know, like James Conner, kind of intrigued. I'm kind of out on Najee Harris. I don't think he's that guy.
Yeah. It's funny. I was
I
about
don't
to
know.
push back on you a little bit, Paul, but I also feel like they've got like a bunch of cap space this year, and I feel like they have to spend money.
That's
and it's like they have to spend money.
If I
this
can just
offseason,
get
you
to
know?
a point, and you guys can argue which players, and Evan will tell me the analytics of this guy and his EPA and all that stuff. I don't care who it is. Can we just stop saying fill in the blank makes a lot of sense, comma, if we can get him at the right price? Can we just stop saying that?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
no one's saying that anymore, are they?
He just said it.
At the right price? Ah.
I
Like
just,
Najee Harris looking for money, so I don't know if
yeah,
maybe if they'll let
he
the
did
like
say that,
And I'm
right.
not picking on Christian because
No, but
what
if you
Christian
were-
said is what everybody says.
If you like Najee Harris, go
Yeah.
get him.
Right, and you have the money, and the cap is not restrictive
Right.
anymore. Like just, especially with Drake Maye as a rookie.
It kind of goes to the conversation we had where we talk about receiver. Everyone wants to talk about receiver, and there's T. Higgins is out there, and he's the only guy who's 25, 26, and
Yeah, that's the
highly
unfortunate part.
productive.
It's not a great crop of
It's not a
free
great
agent
crop, and so
receivers.
you've got to spend money. So you might not be able to spend it on T. Higgins because T. Higgins is the what do they call it, the belle of the ball of this cycle, unless you want to look older. So maybe there is a situation where even though you did just sign Ramondre to a deal and you've got Antonio Gibson who hasn't really done much and seems like he's falling by the wayside a little bit, like maybe it does make sense just because look, it's not a huge need, but we love this player, we got the money, we know we can get him. Let's just go make our team better and figure it out once we get into.
I mean, if you're looking
how it
for
all
wide
goes out.
receiver one in the free agency, you might have to extract him from a team.
Right, like look at a trade
I-
candidate or
Trade-
somebody going
trade
into a
somebody.
last year kind
I'm
of
still
thing.
a T. Higgins guy,
Yeah.
but
I would take
would not
T. Higgins,
pay-
but he's really the only
Yeah.
high-level guy available, which means
Who's like under 30.
it's. And I'm not telling you that I would shy away, but it's going to be a bidding war,
Yeah,
and I don't mind winning it,
let's win it.
but it's hard to win it.
And
Yeah.
he's going to
Is my
have
point.
choices.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean,
to
how
be
do you
able to-
guys
all
feel
of them
though
have
about like
Drake
an
May.
Amari Cooper or Stephon Diggs or like those kind of because
Diggs coming
that's
off
the
an
other guys
ACL.
who are good, but you think those
Yeah.
guys in their early 30s, you're looking at a team or a
I
couple year
just
deal
I take a
with
shot at Cooper, but my guess is Buffalo is going to
Buffalo.
retain
Keep
him.
him up.
I would just look at with the running backs. I would never advocate for signing a veteran running back. I think it's a waste of money. But you got to improve the offensive line. If you block better in the run game, then Ramondre is perfectly capable of picking up the yards.
Right.
I just think a lot of what's happened with him is that he's getting hit in the backfield a ton, and that has an attrition on a running back over the course of a season that it wears him down, and now he's not the guy he was in the first month of the season anymore. So if you have less runs where he's got 3 guys hanging on him, then things will get better. So
And
I'd focus
I'm-
on the offensive line.
You know I'm with you with the running back. I'm a running backist, much like I'm an offensive lineist.
Yeah.
They don't matter.
But
Yes.
I do think that Christian's point, the caller, they're lacking at that position. And a guy like Javonte Williams, it's not gonna break the bank. So like, it's not like it's gonna cost you anything. I kind of agree with Evan. I'll go through the roof for T. Higgins. I'll go through the roof for an elite edge rusher. I don't want to go through the roof for a running back because I just don't think it's that important. Not because I don't want to spend the money.
Yeah,
You
it
know
has
what I'm
nothing to do
saying?
with the money.
But I do think you could get a guy that's better than what you have to add to Stevenson. And I think that, Gibson had some flashes early in the year. It's been 2 months,
Yeah.
really, since he's
they don't
provided
seem,
much.
the coaching staff doesn't seem thrilled with whatever's going on with him because I
Yeah.
think he runs the ball well when they give him the opportunities.
Yeah,
but
I would agree with you about that.
Yeah, seems like
The coach.
Hasty
Yeah.
is starting to get more opportunities. And
Yeah, but you look at just I was thinking about this when I was writing after further review. Like you on defense now, all of a sudden have some significant needs on that side of the ball. So when you start to think about spreading out resources, like you need the left tackle, you need the wide receiver, but you also probably need another corner.
What's the corner market like? I haven't looked at that.
So the corner market, I haven't looked at the names, but corners that they like the kind of guy they need, which is just like a reliable veteran outside corner because they don't need the number one. Like they have that. Those guys move a lot. So they might be able to find, I'm thinking of like Buffalo gets like Rasul Douglas and he comes in and really kind of does a nice job for them. Like they don't need, prime Darrell Revis. Like they have the,
No,
the
but you
number
could
one
get
guy.
it. But you could get, like a Legarius Sneed last year.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be like just completely a number 2 guy, because you do have the money to go. Now,
Right.
now I got Gonzalez still
Yep.
on his rookie contract too. It works at
Yeah.
all positions.
Yeah, right.
Right.
So okay, Gonzalez is my number 1. I can bring in this guy who's someone else's number one as the number two, and I can pay him more because
Yeah.
I have another year or two before I have to pay big money to Gonzalez.
Yeah, it just goes back to
They need some depth.
my earlier point where ideally you'd love to say they've got a bunch of cap space. They're going to go get a starting left tackle. They're going to get an elite wide receiver. Like, those players might just not exist. So maybe it does result in, like you said, like, let's just go get a second number one cornerback because he's out there and we can get him. And we'd rather spend on somebody that we know is going to be good than trying to, we miss out on T. Higgins, let's go, down the list to the next guys. Like, those kind of things. Maybe it's surprising. Maybe they all of a sudden add a position we're not really expecting. We all agree on
that's
what the
where
major
I'm
ones
sort
are.
of trending with the veteran stuff, because I think you can buy defense.
Yeah.
Like, I think guys on defense move. Edge rushers, corners, inside linebacker, I think, is another one where you lose
like Patrick Queen.
Yeah, like
going from Baltimore to Pittsburgh.
You
Who'd have
lose
thought that?
Bentley, and now you can't stop the run. Like, I don't think that's a coincidence, right? Like, and so now you need some depth behind him, because if that happens again, then you're just going to be in the same exact spot. So, like, outside corner, I think Jonathan Jones, love him, great Patriot. I think it's probably time.
Back nine.
So
nine.
maybe he moves to safety. So Jonathan Jones, Marcus Jones is slot. He's a nickel corner. You got to play.
Fred aptly pointed out, not a boundary corner.
No,
Probably not.
No. So you got to have that outside corner opposite Gonzalez. You probably need another edge rusher that can get after the passer. You probably need an inside linebacker. Like, so to Deuce's point, like, just go pay those guys.
Yeah.
I'm
Jordan-
in. I'm all in. for all of
Jordan's
that.
in Evanston. What's up, Jordan?
Hey guys, I just wanted to start it off by saying that I love your guys' analysis. It's definitely a form of therapy for me. So, yeah, I appreciate everything you guys do and everything you put out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess I have 3 points. So my thoughts about the Rams game are kind of like bittersweet. I love how Drake played. I love that I felt like he was calm in the pocket. He wasn't like defaulting to scrambling. He was playing in system. And as much as I love watching him scramble, I just don't think that's a sustainable way to live for him. So it was really great to see his growth in that way, especially from last week and the last few weeks, actually. And hopefully he just keeps trending in the right direction. And I absolutely love the kid. He's awesome. It was a great draft pick. Unlike Jalen Polk, but that's a whole other discussion. He's only noticeable for his screw up, so that's just
Took
whatever.
a turn.
And then I guess my second point would be, even though the offense looked functional for the first time in a long time, it's just like crazy to think back to last year where our defense was holding us into games and our offense couldn't do anything at all. Like, if they could do anything, we could have won a few games, and now it's like completely the opposite. Well, maybe that's too dramatic, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, our offense is finally doing something and our defense is not
Yep.
helping out at all.
It's like our
And
golf
that's just
games.
really frustrating that we are everybody's get-right game.
Yep.
And, like, the Rams didn't throw a touchdown last game, and they threw 4 this game. It's like, it's just frustrating to see.
Yep.
And I guess my last point is I felt like the Rams could do anything that they wanted offensively outside the first quarter. They seemed to figure out what the Patriots were doing defensively, like, so quickly. And when it came time to, like, make that decision to punt, the Rams did in the fourth, I felt like they were just thinking that the Pats wouldn't be able to march down the field. And even if they did, they'd be able to, just get more points after that. So I feel like they could have killed us in that, like, at that point. They could have, like, stepped on our throats, but they didn't. They kept us in the game, which, don't get me wrong, that was very entertaining as a Pats fan. Like, great, we have a chance to win, but I feel like they didn't have to do that. They could have killed us right there. But I just felt like the Rams were in control basically the whole game. And I just heard Gerard say something along the lines of, like, they felt like the Patriots were in control the whole game, which I just don't agree with.
Yeah.
I guess I'll get your guys' thoughts on that.
All right. Thanks, Jordan. Good call. He did say that, and we were all raising our eyebrows when he did.
Yeah.
But then he followed up by, on defense, not so much. So I think, again, he talks so fast. I don't think he said it right, but I think I think what he was saying on offense, we felt like we controlled the game.
In the first quarter, I
Yeah.
thought the Patriots were in control.
Yeah.
But once, you know, and even like the Rams' first 2 possessions featured like 20-plus yard plays, right?
Yeah, right. And then
37
they tried to
yards
run the
to
ball
Nakua.
twice in a row, 2 run stops, third down off the field.
So you're getting like one play, and they were able to get off the field when they were kind of on their heel. I think every drive the Rams had went into Patriots territory except for one. I think there was 1 3-and-out in the whole game that they didn't get into Patriots territory. The last 3 quarters, the Rams completely had control of the game.
Yeah.
I would agree with Jordan on that. And I do agree also, they could have kicked a field goal there, but that's a shaky proposition. The kicker hasn't been great. He's a rookie. He's been a little bit hot and cold. He had missed a 20-whatever yarder, shortest missed field goal in the NFL all year. So he said, why not make them go 80 or 90 yards instead of 60? And I think she's right. I think Sean McVay might have been thinking, even if a disaster happens, all I'll need is a field goal to win it, and I've been moving the ball all day.
I know when the other team's scoring quickly, time of possession really gets thrown out the window. But when's the last time the Patriots had the ball 40 minutes and lost?
Oh, it's another one of those stats.
This was
a
like,
weird one.
This was like 37, but
yeah,
it is very deceiving because there was an 11-snap period that the Rams scored 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
You can only score a touchdown. You can't possess the ball any longer once you get to the end zone.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, Phil called it 11 minutes of hell.
Yeah. And it was totally right.
Yeah. It was
All right.
all the worst.
My food's
thing.
here, so let's take a break. Lots of emails, calls coming in. We'll get to them right after this.
Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
When someone accidentally threw away the school play costumes,
oh no,
replacements were shipped with FedEx. And with picture proof of delivery, everyone could focus on the perfect opening night. FedEx, where now meets next. For residential delivery only.
Yep, thanks, Stacey. Kind of what I said last night. Look, it's always disappointing to lose a game, especially here at home. Thought we did a lot of good things. I would also say, we lacked execution in some of the critical times in the game that we really needed to convert, and that's what a good football team is. And look, the guys went out there and played with energy. They played hard. They played tough. I thought offensively, did a pretty good job executing the game plan. And then special teams wise, I would say, there were things that we left out there on the field. And then defensively, obviously the receivers were a huge issue for us. And, you never want to give up big plays. That play the Cup definitely hurt us as far as momentum and things like that in the game. But look, got to go back to the drawing board. We have enough talent in that room, in the locker room to win football games. And I stand by that. And I have to be better. The coaches have to be better and players got to be better. But we have enough talent in there and looking forward to these guys changing the page and continue to get better as we move forward.
I'll open up with questions. We'll start with Mike Reese, followed by Chris Pratt.
Gerard, you mentioned the Cup touchdown. And it's always easier to ask questions when you know the result of the play. At that point in the game, it's 2nd and 9. Looked like you guys sent 7 rushers. And I guess my thought, I wanted to ask you, how comfortable are you with that level of aggressiveness in the sense of, hey, they made the play. right? You still got to make it, but at the same time, the risk reward is what I'm asking.
No, you hit it on the head, the risk reward. And, we felt like that was a good time to call that blitz. We've called it, a couple times in the game. And sometimes it was a run play and it gave us some movement up front. But, when that happened, on that big play, it was just we didn't get there in time and it was poor coverage on the outside.
And then I'm following up on your comment about just the critical situations sometimes coming through with the plays. The red zone offense, I think you even made the point. You were 8 of 9 in red zone offense prior to these last 2 games.
That's right.
It's tailed off a little bit as you've looked at those situations. What is the common thread you're seeing there that has led to the decline there?
I would just say overall, probably just a lack of execution. Even yesterday, you look at it, we're in a short yardage situation and then get a penalty, you have to move back or a tackle for a loss. And then, things kind of change, but we just have to be better. We have to be better in protection. We got to do, as the field starts to contract or shorten. I mean, look, there are other players in the box and we just got to be precise and execute.
Next question, Chris Price, followed by Chris Ryan.
Gerard, I'm curious, a day later, any regrets? I know it's a situation that's ripe for second guessing, but any regrets about punting and when you had a chance to kick maybe a long-ish field goal there to go up 10-0 early on?
Yeah, I don't want to use the word regrets, but look, I've been very open. Being a first-year head coach, like I'm learning as well, and it's a good experience. And like you said, hindsight is 2020, but that was the decision I made during the game that I thought gave us the best chance to win the football game.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris Ryan, followed by Doug Kai.
Hey, Gerard, hope all is well with you. Just kind of building on that, do you feel that as a coach, you want to establish, an identity when it comes to those types of situations? Like obviously certain coaches, they're going to go for it on 4th down, no matter what, or they're going to kick a field goal as opposed to punt. Like, do you feel like you need to have an overriding philosophy when it comes to that, or is it a case-by-case type situation?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's a case-by-case, like how the game is going, what the flow of the game is like. And like I said, in the moment, and I always feel like I'm making the right decision. And it's very easy to look back and say, well, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z. And that would be multiple situations. Like you can go back to the London game and then some of the same situations showed up yesterday. And if you execute, we're not having this conversation, but as I say here today, look, it's 100% on me, and I have to be better.
The other thing you mentioned is that there's enough talent in the room to win games. Did you always, believe that, or did the guys have to kind of show that through the course of the year? Like after the Jacksonville game, you've obviously been a much more competitive team. So did that question kind of get answered, or did you already know the answer to it?
Yeah, I've always believed that we had talent in the room. I've always believed that. We have tough, smart, dependable guys in the room. And I saw that in the weight room during the spring when that's where you really first see how tough your football team is. And, we just got to continue to try to put those guys in a situation that they can be successful and win games.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Doug Kai, followed by Sophie Well.
Hey, good morning, Gerard. Mike was asking earlier about the aggressiveness that you guys showed on the full-out blitz, on the big play by Cooper Kupp. It does feel like some of the 4th down decisions have been a little bit more conservative. Have you been mindfully going more risk-averse on those 4th down decisions, or is that just the way that you felt in the moment?
As I've said, throughout the season, especially the last 3 weeks, I've alluded to, the coordinators, the coaches, and myself, we've done a decent job, a good job of staying ahead of the game. Now, there are certain situations where, all right, look, we're going for it right here, and then it's a tackle for a loss. And I'm not just talking about this game. I'm talking about, just the season as a whole. There are situations where you have to be ready to change. And look, as I continue to evolve as a coach, as the players continue to grow and develop, we'll see what happens. But it's a case-by-case basis.
And just one quick follow-up as well. I know you got a chance to watch the film by this point. What did you think of Christian Barmore's performance in his return?
Yeah, I would say first and foremost, it was just good to see him out there. There are definitely things we have to work on, and I would say the number one thing is just pad level. It was really his first time being in pads, and I look forward to him continue to progress.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sophie Weller, followed by Mark Daniel.
Morning, Gerard.
Morning.
I was just curious. Kendrick Bourne went from having no snaps against the Bears to playing and got hit the touchdown and all that. Just how did you see him kind of respond after that adversity from the week before?
Yeah, he responded great. I think he was our leading receiver yesterday, and just a guy that. And it doesn't matter what position you're talking about. Like, there's nothing more important than practice and going out there and performing at a high level at practice. Which I would say he had a great week of practice, and it transferred to the game.
And then I'm curious, Javon Baker, we were seeing him do some punt returns, but he had the fumble and then the hurdle play, and he was kind of out after that. Was that in response to that, or just giving players their opportunity? Just kind of what was the thought process there?
You're talking about the kick returns, right?
Yes, sorry.
Yep, no problem. So on the kick returns, he was back there the first couple of snaps, and he didn't execute the way that we all had hoped he would. I know it was a big return. Even on that big return, it was one of those situations where is he coming out, is he not coming out, and same thing with the second kickoff return.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mark Daniels, followed by...
And someone like Jalen Polk, for you as a coach, how difficult of a balance is it, having the young kid in there because you need to develop him, but also taking, a productive receiver like Kendrick off the field?
Yeah, like I said earlier, Kendrick had a great game, and Polk is developing, and he will be a good player in this league. As the head coach of this football team, we're trying to win right now, and whoever the hot hand happens to be in that situation will play more.
Thank you.
Thanks.
There are two final questions, Chris Price and Mike Reese.
Gerard, kind of piggybacking off of Doug's question from earlier, I'm curious to get your thoughts on how Yannick played in his debut for you guys yesterday.
Yeah, he did some good things. I would say, he's a very smart individual, and look, we'll continue to load up his plate this week, and I anticipate him playing more as we move forward.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The last question, Mike Reese.
And how significant, Gerard, did you see the illegal formation penalty on that they called in terms of the way the game unfolded, and what is the coaching point there, I guess, going forward?
Are you talking about the low? The
low, yeah.
Yeah, look, so, the referees, they do a good job. They give you a warning before the game. They gave them, 2 warnings during the game, and they called the third one. So that's on us. And I always say, look, we'll do business as business is being done, and you've been warned multiple times. You got to get on the ball. But it's not only, look, I know it's oftentimes, they throw the flag on a tackle, but I would also say it's part, the entire offensive line. If the guards are set 2 back, then obviously the tackles will be back as well. And, if you ask those guys the same question, they'll give you the same answer.
Thanks, Gerard. Thanks, everyone.
And now, great moments in history.
I got the neighbor that burns everything. Plastic, everything.
Oh, now that is bad.
Yeah, well,
that's even I would say, and I don't care at all about the environment.
Matt,
that's bad.
That must be an awful smell.
It is horrible when he does it.
It's always the guy that burns the leaves too, and it ends up.
I don't mind leaves.
Yeah, but it ends up with like a blaze in the background.
The ashes are coming into my yard though when he's doing that.
Well, you're not supposed to burn leaves. You can burn brush and stuff, but not leaves.
Yeah, but people burn leaves.
I know they burn everything.
They do it.
I got a guy across the street.
It's those dope smokers.
He's got his main driveway, which is paved, but then he's got this back road, which is all dirt. And he keeps putting down wood chips, and every time it rains, the wood chips just drain right out into the street. He doesn't get it. It's like, it's not going to work. How many times are you going to do this? He keeps doing it, and it keeps just running right out.
It's not going to work.
Just keep it dirt or pave it.
He suddenly sounds like Capello.
Yeah, but like first time you look at it and go, oh, that didn't work, and you don't do it again. He keeps doing it.
That's another great moment from
All right, it's easy to drink. It's easy to enjoy. Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the New England Patriots. And how do you want to spend your Black Friday? Do you want to spend your weekend watching football instead of waiting in line? Well, if you do, this November, Bob's is unboxing unbeatable values for your home all month long. So you can skip the phony sales and stock up on everything from sofas to bedroom sets to stocking stuffers and plenty of wow-worthy gifts too. So stop in and see how much you can save when you dare to compare with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots.
I was going to tell you how I was going to spend my Black Friday.
How are you going to spend your Black Friday?
I thought you were asking me. I got to do one of my shows.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, on my station.
Okay.
Fill it in.
Yeah, it's a little fill-in action.
I like that.
Nothing like holiday fill-in.
Oh, yeah,
time,
nothing
Fred.
sadder than the week holiday fill-in host.
Yeah.
That's when Barth shines.
Yeah.
This is his time.
I'm with
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I know the
This
holiday
is
season's
when he
coming up
makes
for
his
Barth.
dough,
I'm
huh?
ready to
So
go.
the
Make
week
my
be-
holiday money.
The
Barth
week
makes
between
his
Christmas
bag
and
now.
New Year's is the Barth show. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I draw the line at actual holidays.
Just give me the bag. Yeah, so that's good. You're going to be on Friday.
Yeah.
There's a
Well,
game
a
Friday?
week
Does-
from Friday.
Does anyone here partake in Black Friday?
No,
my
been
wife.
She goes out.
Yeah,
Doorbuster?
all the
Really?
time. Yeah, I think she
Brave
has to,
soul.
I think she has to work this year. though.
Brave soul.
No.
I used to when I was a kid.
Like midnight waiting for the
Oh,
store
yeah.
to open.
Will
and
used to do it.
Yeah.
Doorbusters? You guys do the
Oh,
Doorbusters thing?
when I used to live in Rentham, they have the
No, not
Rentham
me. I
outlets, which the premium outlets.
Oh,
a lot
premium.
of cities
Those are
have
still
those.
there, even though you don't
But
live in
no,
Rentham
but
anymore.
people line up on the highway
Oh, God.
at midnight to get off that ramp into that place. It's unbelievable.
I bet.
It's unbelievable.
My mom and sisters went crazy when that place opened up way back when. I
It's
remember
a-
that
I
was
like
like
the
a
Rentham
holiday.
outlets, too.
Oh,
Yeah,
the Rentham
good
outlets.
spot.
Solid.
Yeah.
Get whatever you need.
But just be careful about the markdowns. That's what the prices should be.
Yeah, they're not that great. That's the
no.
thing. You go there looking for a deal. You gotta just go to Marshall's if you're really looking for like a deal on
Well,
clothing.
Paul
You
Paul
get
and
a-
I would disagree
You
with
get
you.
a regular clothes.
You-
yeah.
you-
what are you gonna-
The name brands have different lines in Marshalls than they do in the premium department stores.
This is
Just
an
so
old-
you know that.
Oldie but goodie for friends.
Just so you know that. You get what you pay for. Clothes and furniture. You get what
Yeah,
you pay
deuce.
Oh, Jesus. I know
Solomon
so much
had
hate
Huh?
on Marshalls. That's my spot.
for. Well, dare
Marshalls.
to compare, Paul.
Right.
I dare to compare, and the comparison's coming out in favor of Marshalls.
All right, we got a lot of emails coming in at podcasts@patriots.com. And just want to remind people, if you want to get the amazing PU newsletter that Alex puts together every week, featuring just stuff about this show, all you have to do is email us at podcasts@patriots.com, and you can ask a question for the show or just say, I want the newsletter. Either way, we'll put you into the distribution list, and you'll get the newsletter every week. So
I was thinking of doing maybe a little Tales from Hollywood deuce section, maybe a couple of like funny, charming stories perhaps for the newsletter at some point.
Do you have any?
I'll come up with some. I'll make
Come up with some. I'm gonna think about it.
I got some good ones. Random celebrity encounters. It might be fun.
all right, so let's get into some of the emails. A lot of them coming in. Dexter in Santa Rosa, California. You know Santa Rosa?
Oh,
Deuce?
no,
No?
not really.
I'm tired of these weird, unspoken riffs that happen with our wide receiver group. KB doesn't play, then looks like our best receiver the next week. Reports are coming in, speaking and hinting at a mutiny. Stay clear, Evan. I can't help but feel like Gerard is rapidly losing trust amongst the locker room, especially when his decisions are easy to directly correlate to losses. I am in no way blaming him for every loss, but there is something to Paul's rant about having a philosophy. Mayo is going with his gut, and the players don't respect that because it's easier to buy into a philosophy rather than somebody's gut. What do you think about that?
I'm gonna
not
stay
sure
away
what he
from that
means.
one.
I don't see what he's talking about in terms of the locker room and the players believing and all that. I think that the questions on his decisions are valid. I think that he's done a lot of things that are worth second guessing. I don't think they've all been wrong, but I think that they're definitely worthy of different viewpoints. But I think the players, I think that game on Sunday was a perfect example of it. That's a game that easily could have gotten out of hand. And I don't know that they ever really did anything to completely turn it around, but they did enough to scrap and claw their way, so the Rams never were able to completely put the game away until they finally picked off the pass.
Yeah.
You know,
And
so I think they played hard, and they continue to fight. And I actually said something to Evan during the game. It was kind of annoying me because it was like that kind of stuff that I kind of don't
was
really
it about
like.
the referees? Because you were pretty annoyed by that.
Oh, that one call was I went on a rant on the post-game show, but the constant, like, do you see how excited they get on the sideline? You know, we had the thing that that Van Pelt talked about, the pickups.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Trey Jacobs had all the pickups, and I think that's great. It's great team bonding, team camaraderie.
Yeah.
The fact that they charred it a little like Harry High School for me, but the over-the-top enthusiasm on the sideline is clearly something that has been sort of ingrained from the coach. Like, Javon Baker had a nice kickoff return to start the game, and like you would have thought that he took it to the house, the way that the sideline reacted like this. And I'm not saying, I know how this is going to come across. Oh, Paul doesn't like any excitement. No, I do like excitement, and I do think that you should show enthusiasm when your team makes good plays. Bill used to talk about that all the time. You should be happy. It's hard. I just thought it was a little over the top.
Well,
did you see the sideline?
I'm going to be a little hypocritical here.
Okay,
because I didn't notice it for the Patriots, but I mean, you're right. They were doing that. But I was watching last night the Cowboys in Houston, and I love seeing the Cowboys lose.
Yeah.
I'm always rooting against them. But I almost turned into a Cowboys fan last night because of the hooting and hollering that was going on the Texans sideline. I mean, they were out of control. It was unbelievable, especially that first half. Like, every play was like the greatest play ever. Did you notice that?
I didn't really watch much of the game.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I was like...
I saw a couple of plays here and there.
I was like, this is enough. And from the head coach on down, it wasn't just the assistant coaches and players. I was like, okay, maybe I want the Cowboys to win this game a little bit.
McCarthy taking that long field goal off the board for Aubrey cost me my fantasy game. I know people care about that. But
I actually
I lost by 3.
Every
3
week
points.
on the all 22 when the Patriots are on offense, I don't want to call him a cheerleader, but like the number one fan of Drake Maye is Jacoby Brissett, and I just think that's kind of cool.
That's great.
Yeah,
that I love.
Like
no problem with that at all.
Like that, I think
I love
is really awesome, and like I think that he's fully embraced like the mentor role now that he's not playing anymore. And there was one play in particular where he sprinted down the sideline. I think it was the Bourne touchdown to greet Maye coming off the field. And like there couldn't have been a single person that was happier in that stadium for Drake than Jacoby.
Cool.
Which is
and that's
amazing.
not necessarily what I'm talking about. And I mentioned it to you during the game, and you kind of like you made fun of me, which you probably should have, because I get it.
God forbid we have a good time, right?
I do. Don't you? Yeah. It's hard to explain. It's like a high school kind of a thing. It's a meant like when you see in a high school, and guys are just jumping up and down. Whereas like in the pros, you like we've had a lot of success, guys. We were 5-star recruits coming out of high school. We had all-American careers in college. We're used to making good plays. Why are we acting like we never made a good play before? There was like a fine line. I don't want to like squash the enthusiasm, but I just thought it was a little over the top.
That's how I felt about the Texans last night.
Well, it sounds like it's similar, especially in that. I think it's even worse for Houston last night because you're beating up on a completely banged-up Dallas team. What are you really doing?
Speaking of Jacoby Brissett, I saw him in his first, or at least the first time I've seen him in a national commercial last night.
So I saw it too last Thursday night, and I'll admit I was kind of dozing off at that point of the game. And so I thought maybe I like dreamt it or something like that.
Yeah.
And I woke up the next day and I was like, Jacoby Brissett was definitely in that progressive commercial.
It's those ones where...
Oh, the backup?
Yeah, the backup. He comes in as a backup accountant or something like that.
So they're actually doing
the premise. I don't think they execute it well.
I think they're actually doing it with multiple well-known backups.
Yeah, Colt McCoy is in one of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was good to say, hey, Jacoby getting a little love. I like that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. Claire writes in, hello, everyone. Hello, Marine.
Hello, Marine.
I agree with Deuce. This team is struggling for an overall identity. Offensively, maybe it can be the tight end age team. Like you guys said, Hunter is so dependable. I believe he's a real good tight end. Hooper is even developing. That's not a bad offensive identity. A great quarterback and some good and productive tight ends, at least until the wide receivers learn how to catch. I like it, she says. So,
can we talk about the wide receivers a little bit?
Sure.
If you like.
Can we say something positive first? And
you
then
can talk about whatever you want, Mike.
Right,
this is our show.
I do think that their tight ends are both pretty good players, and I give Maye and Van Pelt credit for kind of building this passing game around the strengths of the receivers that they do have, and it's a lot of Hunter Henry between the numbers, Austin Hooper, obviously Pop and KB, Booty on in-cut routes, slants, things been breaking into the middle of the field because that's what this group is good at, and Drake's doing a really good job of executing it. So I think that this game plan that they played against the Rams, like that, they can execute that offense. Like they can run an offense like that, and then hope eventually they get the outside guys that he can throw deep a little bit more often next year. That's not going to happen this year, but maybe next year. So right now, this is the personnel that they have, and they're doing a nice job of getting those guys the ball. What's your negative?
Do you have something?
I don't know. I just
compliment sandwich.
I just try to feel like I try to be positive, and like I hold out hope for things to work out, and I'm feeling pessimistic about Jalen Polk. I really lost kind of hope on him. I would say I really felt good. I loved him. He was one of the first players I watched when I started the draft process. I just thought he was tough, and there was a lot that I liked about his game. I liked him this summer. He was consistent, and I wrote in the mailbag today that I've never in my professional career covering this team had quite the experience I've had with him, where I feel I believe in this player. I think this player is going to be good, and then to see him just do nothing. And I mean, and I think there's probably some people talking about like, the clock was going to expire anyway on the penalty that he had. I didn't check that myself, but how do you play as much as he played? He didn't have a single target. He had one penalty and no targets. Like, it's like he's out there to block, but they're not even looking towards him. I've never seen anything quite like it, and I'm questioning myself a little bit on the whole situation.
I had Robert Gallery. You have Jalen Polk. Scott writes in, last week you were talking about longtime listeners. Well, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I've been listening since the days of Brian Morey. What was that, 2000 or 2001? Yep. I almost always listen to the podcast, not live, and I don't believe I've ever missed an episode. Always been a favorite. I'm not sure that rates a T-shirt, but if it did, I'd be thrilled.
Oh, do we
send the man a
that?
T-shirt?
We still do that?
Matt Morrell, send him a T-shirt. Okay,
be patient.
Says, yep, be patient.
Matt gives me a look.
A cape.
Travis in West Virginia. I look forward to a time when we can surprise defenses by running the ball. Right now, it feels like every time we run, the whole stadium knows it's coming. I always thought Josh McDaniels was really good at calling running plays when the defense wasn't expecting it, but I realized the fear of Tom Brady throwing had a lot to do with that. Also, is it the pregame show or the pregame social? I thought you retired the term social, but No Socks calls it that all the time.
Not aware.
I don't know. I'll need
I think when we first started the show, we did call it the pregame social because it was on Facebook and Twitter, and I think it was the first pregame show for a team on those. So
pregame show.
It's
the
a
world's
pregame
largest
show now, but it used to be the pregame social,
Demented
the world's
and
largest
sad.
virtual
tailgate.
Yeah,
it's demented and sad, but social.
But now everything's on social, so it's not that big a deal.
I feel like the runs on first down are like everyone's biggest gripe with AVP right now. Yeah. It's like we're never supposed to run the ball on first down. I think if you looked at the numbers, you'd be surprised at how evenly split they actually are when it comes to run pass on first down. In this game, I believe they were 50-50 actually.
So last game, wait a minute. Maybe I'm talking about it might be the Tennessee game. They had 9 first down runs and 21 first down passes.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's not. I think the issue is that their run game has struggled a little bit, and so when the ones that stand out it's first and 10, now it's second and 10 because we got stuffed on first down running the football, but they're actually throwing the ball. Well, since Drake became the starter, at least I kind of thrown out. Before that,
but that's all that
was before that.
Yeah,
I blocked it.
Since Drake became the starter, they are actually one of the more aggressive early down passing teams in the league. So it doesn't really back it up.
I liked it for the Rams. I liked the Rams doing that against the Patriots. I thought that was a smart move for them. They had success too, throwing the ball. On early downs.
Kamel in Georgia writes in. He has some questions. He says, "I see people on X saying that the illegal formation penalty was a bad call. What do you guys think?" I guess that's the one on Low.
Egregiously illegal. For both the left tackle and the left guard.
Gerard said they were warned twice.
So it was a good call.
Yes.
Yeah, they were warned twice. They
and
called
Lowe
it on
should
the third
know
one.
because he got caught 3 times in a row in preseason.
Yeah. So I actually would say that that was a core 4, not Lowe.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Gerard said specifically what Mike just said, like they had warned him 2 previous times. He went over and said, that's the 3rd time I warned him twice.
Yeah, I actually thought that there was one later in the game, too, that could have been called again, and they let it go. But I would put that more on Jordan because Lowe is lining up based off of the guy next to him and Jordan. So if Jordan's off the line of scrimmage, then Lowe's going to be off the line of scrimmage. So it's both of their faults in a way.
Can we coach this out of them already?
Now, that said, okay, I'm not telling you that it was a bad call. Can they just have some sort of, mandate as to what, I want it called every time if that's what you want. If this is like this big issue for the league, that these guys lining up a hair in the backfield is a huge issue, then throw the flag every time it happens. I don't want 3 warnings.
Right. Right.
Now, if you're asking me what I would prefer as a fan to watch the game, just let it go. If he moves early, that's a penalty.
Yeah.
But that, ironically enough, they get away with more often than they should.
Yeah.
But
guys timing the snap a little
I
early.
It just stinks too that it seems to happen on these great off-script Drake Maye plays. Like every time he makes
It's
one of
frustrating.
these ridiculous plays,
Oh.
off, illegal formation,
flag on the play.
this, that.
There was a play early in last night's game. It was ineligible man downfield, Tunsil, negated touchdown by Nico Collins. That was just beautiful to see. I mean, when that guy runs,
it's a shame.
He's a thing of beauty.
That was
it
in Chicago, right? On Onwenu was the illegal man downfield that wiped out a good completion that Drake had. It just seems like the play also works every time they get caught for it. It's just a bummer.
I didn't understand the Stevenson run before the 2-minute warning on the final drive.
Oh, Paul, explain that one.
Yeah. Charlie Weiss.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, it's a pretty common practice around the. They know the 2-minute warning is going to hit on this play. They're hoping to catch.
Right.
To your point, I think this is the same email that said that they'd like to be less predictable when they run. Right.
Yeah, right.
That's a non-predictable run that unfortunately is kind of fallen into the predictable category because I think a lot of teams do it. I don't really care for it.
Right.
Especially when I have Drake Maye cooking, as Evan likes to say.
The other defense is loaded up for pass. They've got smaller people out there, and you're not going to kill yourself with the clock by doing it. So,
right.
It's considered a free play basically because the clock's going to stop anyway.
Right. And Kevin Falk always got 15.
Will you guys make? You guys have made the Rams punt again after the penalty or take the yards? So that was something we were talking about. Apparently, they did decide.
Yeah, I would have. I would have made him re-kick it.
Yeah,
I would have made him re-kick it. And hope that he doesn't get a good kickoff.
Yeah.
Hope it goes in the end zone. You get a free 10 yards and go out to the. To me, you're going to start at the 10. What's the difference if he gets a better punt than that, which is not easy? So you start out with the 6 or the 4. Is there a difference really?
Right.
But I think if he puts it in the end zone and you start at the 20, there is a little bit of a difference.
Yeah.
Also, the Jets fired GM Joe Douglas. What do you think about that?
Yeah.
Can I just on the punt real quick, and then we can talk about that. I don't mean to sound like Felger here, but I'm going to a little bit. Are we sure that Gerard knows what he's doing in those situations? And I don't mean to be I'm not trying to say that to be a jerk. Are we sure that he has control of the situation? Right? Does he? Because it seems to me like those things happen. And he's kind of just okay, let's just, just, you know what I mean? I fear that.
He said he
is the
did.
case.
I mean, he said he didn't want to give them another chance to pin him closer. Now, you could have made an argument that time. They didn't want to have another 8 or 10 seconds go off the clock. I just don't think time was a factor. You had the 2-minute warning coming and a timeout.
Yeah.
You weren't going to run out of time. It was, can you get 90 yards? I don't think time was going to be a factor.
I just wonder if, are you a step ahead in these situations, right? Obviously you're not thinking that that's necessarily going to happen, but if it does happen, what's your plan? You need to have, Bill would have a million, all these things were always all predetermined, right? If we're going to run it on 3rd down because we're going to go for it on 4th, or we're going to, it just seems like we're flip-flopping. He said on 3rd down, if they had gained more yards on 3rd down and we're closer, he would have gone for it on 4th down. And to me, it's what difference does it make? If you're running it on 3rd down, it's because you're telling your coordinator that you have 2 plays to get this.
But you're also not expecting to get nothing on the 3rd down.
I suppose, but now you're taking the ball out of Drake's hands, right? On 3rd down, if Van Pelt had known that they were gonna kick the field goal on 4th down, I have to think that it's a different play call than what it ends up being on 3rd.
No, so this one I'm going to be a little defensive because I think if you're planning on going for it on 4th down, the right thing you can make an argument is to run the ball because I got 2 downs to get
I agree with that
the
part.
yards. So when you don't get any, because you're not expecting an incomplete pass, which is nothing. So now how many times does that happen? And they say, well, if you're going to go for it on 4th down, why not run it twice? But when you get nothing, because you're not expecting to get nothing. That's the fail there. I can understand him thinking that way.
Yeah.
I in my mind, we have 2 plays to get this, but I didn't realize we weren't going to get any yards on the third down play. I mean, I still would have gone for it.
I just think
it
ruins the process, right? Because like if you're Van Pelt, and I'd heard McDaniels, I think he was on Colin Cowherd last week, was it? He was talking about Cowherd asked him how often Bill was in his ear during games when he was calling plays. And McDaniels said the only thing that Bill ever talked to him about was situations just like that. So Bill would come over the headset and say, Josh, you have 2 plays to get it here. So that way he calls a third down knowing that he still has 4th down in his back pocket if they need it.
Right.
So if you're Gerard and you say to Van Pelt, hey, we have 2 plays to get this, that changes the third down play call.
Right, but to me, it changes it to a run.
Yeah, but like it just changes the whole thing though. Like it could change it to a run. It could change the type of run because like you're thinking like now it's 3rd and 2. So even if I only get 1 yard running Ramondre into the line of scrimmage,
now I'm going to do it again.
I'm going to do it again.
Right.
Whereas if you know that that's the only play that you have,
right. Now it's a 2-point conversion type of play.
It's a totally
now it's a
different
pass.
circumstance.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I can kind of give Mayo a little bit of slack there.
Right. David, New Hampshire, about the field goal decision. He says, I think a lot of people are forgetting that it was 7-0 for that field goal decision. I've heard a lot of they couldn't stop the Rams all day about opting to punt, but that's objectively not true when the decision was made.
I haven't heard any of that about that field goal. That's the one early in the game, the 55-yarder.
Right.
All I've heard about that is Sly's struggles in pregame.
He had trouble in pregame, right.
He did.
And Sly himself said it after the game.
Yeah, especially to the Banners end of the stadium.
Yeah.
The wind was swirling.
Yeah, it was weird. And the other kicker had trouble too.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of that is, and I don't think this has gotten enough criticism, all we want to do is make fun of Alex Van Pelt and then the defense, but it's another game, another area of special teams continues to hurt the Patriots. So everybody talks about the block PAT. No one really talks about the ensuing kickoff that was returned to the 35-yard line, or 34-yard line.
We talked about that last week, Paul.
We talk about it in the postgame show, but elsewhere. So there's another one.
Yeah.
So you pass up a 55-yard field goal, and then what do? You punt the ball into the end zone.
Yeah.
That's not what you're looking for.
The punter has not been good.
Yeah.
That's another special teams breakdown. Self-inflicted wounds.
Let's go back to the TPX hotline. Excuse me. 855-PATS-500. Joe's in Delaware. Hey, Joe. Joe.
Is this Joe Biden?
Yo, Joe.
It could be. Delaware.
Mr. President?
Mr. President. No, not there. All right. We'll move up to Agawam. Patty's there. What's up, Patty?
Good afternoon, Jen. Joe was probably just taking a nap.
Could be.
So,
nice.
Good.
I got to say, I agree with Deuce. You can kind of see, like, tangibly Drake May getting better every week right before our eyes. And I also wanted to go back to when you guys were discussing the offseason. I don't know about you guys, but to me, this feels like kind of slim pickings in this year's draft and the free agency. I always try and look ahead no matter how good the team's doing. But there are some guys in free agency that I think could help the team. Like I believe DJ Reed is going to be a free agent.
Yep.
And I think he'd be a good addition as a number 2 corner next to Gonzalez and Azeez Ojulari. But aside from that, I mean, I don't know, Paul. I'm with you too, man. They need to bolster up the depth, and that's something that we've been seeing with this team. I mean, if they get behind a little bit. It just seems like they can never, put that final drive together to win the game. We've seen them do it and tie the game this year, but I just want to see them get over that hump.
Yep.
And might have to be like another couple years before we see this team seriously contend for a playoff spot. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Patty. They can do it next year.
They shouldn't need that much time. I always am wary of, because I've heard this, it's not just Patty, about this not being a great draft class, especially that when you hear that, it's about the top of the draft, right? It's not about, no one knows what pick 186 is going to be,
And
but
there's no quarterbacks.
yeah, so
Right.
there's no great quarterbacks, and I always push back on that because we don't know who any of these guys are going to be in 2 or 3 years. So you can sit there and say it's not a great draft class, and then Will Campbell's the next Joe Thomas, and Ted McMillan is Julio Jones, and it can just happen like that. So I wouldn't worry too much about it being a down year in the draft.
Yeah, me neither. And I don't. I mean, they need more than depth. They need talent.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's hard. And like I know Patty was saying, it's going to be at least a couple years. Like it's hard to get everything they need in 1 year to be a contender for a playoff spot. The quarterback looks like he's going to put you in contention to have a decent offense.
Castellanos going to be available?
Hey, where's he going? Left.
I'm only kidding.
I know you were.
One other name just to throw out there too, and I don't even know if he fits, but last week we heard Richardson, the defensive tackle coach, talk a lot about Kenny Clark, and he'll be a free agent too. But he's another guy who I know they really like and could use maybe a defensive front guy. He's another one who'll hit free agency next year.
Yeah, DJ Reed. I looked up the corners because we were talking about it earlier.
DJ Reed, I like that name.
Javarius
Absolutely.
Ward, Carlton Davis is a free agent. DJ Reed's a free agent. Some other aging guys like
DJ Reed's a good
Russell
player.
Douglas,
One other
Gilmore.
thing I can't shake, Evan, is that pretty much, and I like just looking at the mock drafts right now just to start to get a knowledge of the guys.
I don't even like doing that in February, and you're
there's
doing it now.
6 edge guys that go in the first round in most of these mock drafts. So
Yeah.
I just, it's
You want one of those?
I don't know yet.
It's
but
a
I'm
really
just saying
good
it's
defensive line
So it's
class.
going to come to that debate that we often have, which is, do you wait to get the one left over, or do you go early and try to get the best one?
So I tell you, the old Miss guys, pretty good edge rushers.
Yep.
There's another team I saw this week that had constant pressure off the edges. There's some good athletes. I don't know where they're all supposed to go. Last year I had the guy from UCLA who
Latu.
was top 15 pick. I had I don't
Latu.
I don't do any of the mock drafts and stuff. Fred, I just identify talent, and you guys slot them where you want to slot them.
I like mock drafts. What do you
Yeah,
want
no,
me to say?
it's the defensive prospects at the top of this draft. There's quite a few interior defensive linemen, edge guys, corners. Will Johnson from Michigan's a hell of a corner. Him and Travis Hunter are going to be highly drafted at that position. It's probably a better defense draft this year. Last year was all offense. This year I'd say defense.
Yeah. Let's go back to the TPX hotline. Brian's in Indiana. Hey, Brian. Brian. These people are very impatient. Well, because they're on their lunch, and then the boss walks by, and then
he
they
was
have
waiting
to
for
hang up.
40 minutes.
Yeah. Well, that's what it happens. Busy show. We'll go up to North Carolina. Eldred's there. What's up, Eldred?
Hey, fellas, how y'all doing today?
All right.
Hey, Eldred.
Yeah, I ain't in the truck. I'm off, but listen to the show, and I like Jordan's comment and everything about Pope. Have y'all seen that new news feed about how Los Angeles Chargers, the trade they made with us during the draft, looked like it seemed to be a robbery?
Lad McConkey.
Lad McConkey, and then well, we traded and got they got Lad McConkey and that corner to keep something, which is starting, and they are 7-3.
Oh, the Notre Dame kid, the fifth
Jalen
rounder.
Pope, the 5th round, and then Cam Hart too, and they're starting the defense. Their corners need, and we got Jalen Pope and Javon Baker. Well, currently got that's Fred's guy, 43 receptions,
Lad McConkey.
615 yards, 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, Fred's guys played well.
Number one receiver.
Fred's guys played well, and he's.
Am I not a wide receiver whisperer? I identify.
Help them, Fred.
I'll give you Justin Jefferson and Lad McConkey.
Christian Watson. Pretty good.
I don't recall you
I've only
being
got
that
2.
high on Christian Watson,
No?
but I would say he's been sort of hot.
But I
and
was.
cold.
We're giving
He's
him,
hurt-
we're
he's hurt
giving
a
him
lot.
Justin Jefferson.
Yeah.
Oh no!
He had him.
I mean, Justin Jefferson
Yes,
was not
but,
like Marvin Harrison coming out. Like he wasn't supposed to be a top 5 pick. What did he go, like 18?
21,
21?
Yeah, something like that.
And Fred, I mean, like when I tell you Fred loved him
I was like
coming
banging,
out.
as Alex would say.
I gotta give it,
I was banging the table.
How
for
reluctant
Justin
am I to
Jefferson.
give Fred credit for anything? Come on,
Pre-gritty.
now.
Pre-gritty. He didn't even see the gritty yet. He just liked him.
I mean,
he
Justin
just-
Jefferson was hell of a prospect. Anyways,
That's a good guy.
Good job, Fred.
Hey,
So
Evan,
my only thing with
Evan.
draft day trades, and Eldred's right. Listen, it's a trade that we're going to look back on and say, that's
Yeah.
a tough one. But I don't
That was-
necessarily look at
Evan.
the individuals taken. Like you traded down from whatever it was, 33 to 37 or something like that. And
34, 37.
34 to 37, you
39.
picked up a 4th-round pick and gave a 5th-round pick. The fact that the Chargers pick better players than you picked is drafting.
That's my point.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
That's
It's
drafting.
talent evaluation.
Right. That's drafting, and the Chargers deserve credit for picking guys, but I don't necessarily look at the trade that they made as being a heist.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
No, I know.
Like trading down 3 or 4 spots in the 2nd round to add a 4th-rounder as opposed to a 5th-rounder, that's not a bad trade.
Yeah.
Now, it's looking terrible, like Eldred said, because you could have taken Lad McConkey instead of Jalen Polk.
Right.
And Lad McConkey's been pretty good.
That's the problem. You took a wide receiver.
Right.
With the pick.
Well, all of those picks, Xavier Legette, Lad McConkey, Xavier Worthy, Keon Coleman,
Coleman's been better than I thought he would be, to be honest with you. He's
those
been banged
are
up a little bit
that
now,
is
but-
A.J. Brown, Debo Samuel, D.K. Metcalf. That's that version.
Yep.
Here we go again.
Yeah.
All right. What else, Eldred?
Yep. Evan.
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna give you your flyer, sir.
Oh.
I already ordered my jersey and my cap. It should be here by next week. And he does look a little different, a lot different rather. And Mike, even the best will keep throwing interceptions, even Brady. So he's not gonna get out of that. And I'm gonna go with what the guy that called the game Sunday on the radio. I think that was Pop's fault for not looking back at the ball.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right.
That's what I think. Y'all have a good one.
All right. Thanks, Eldred.
Thanks, Eldred.
They're talking about Belichick going to the Jaguars. Is that all stemming from the Florio conjecture, or is there more to that?
I just think any opening job he's going to be.
Yeah,
No, I know,
I've
but-
heard nothing all year, but Jacksonville, Philly, Dallas, Giants. Like, they're all assuming that all those jobs are going to be open.
Cowboys.
And Bill will. That's Dallas.
Oh, that's right.
And
They're from Dallas.
Good.
I was very indie-like right there. That's Dallas. Going to need you to listen. I've heard him tied to all of those jobs. I know the Florio thing from this week, but that's not like wild. I mean, people have thought that Peterson's going, and he's got a place down there, right?
I think it kind of makes sense in a weird way.
Jacksonville?
Yeah, because I think he likes Trevor.
A lot of cheerleading down there?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think he likes Trevor.
Well,
So he feels like he probably has the quarterback owner with deep pockets that's not afraid to spend.
Who'll be willing to let him be
Yeah,
Bill
stay out
Belichick.
of the way.
And
Right.
it's not a huge market, so he doesn't have to deal with people like us,
There's
in Boston,
Yeah.
New York, Dallas, whatever. So, in a weird way,
Yeah.
kind of makes sense.
There's a pool in the stadium for a mermaid if you have one by his side.
Oh, good. Good deuce. Good deuce.
He gives you the Groucho Marx eyebrows. I mean, like, who are you?
Made a joke there, yeah.
Pull us out of our misery here, Fred. Come on, move on.
I'll
Give
let
us the donut.
I'll let Boston Cream do that. What's up,
Give
Boston
us the
Cream?
donut.
Hey guys, nice to talk to you guys. My question is there a point where we can start playing more young players to kind of develop them, or have we already run through the depth?
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we stand right now.
Who's not playing?
Yeah, which young guy would you like to see playing?
I mean,
who's
more
not?
Bell, I guess, maybe.
Layden Robinson.
Maybe Baker.
Baker.
Baker, yeah.
He seems like he's
I think he's
mentally
going the other way.
swimming in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Boston
But
Creamer.
Baker would be an example. Baker and Bell, but
Yeah. Boston Cream, are you filled with cream or custard? That's always bugged me. I feel like Boston Cream donuts are always custard, and I don't like custard. I like cream.
We got to go with cream, whatever you like, dude.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay. And wherever you like, dude.
You like donuts, Paul? Not the Boston Cream. You painful sigh about my donut talk.
That was
Thought you'd
hurtful.
like it. You don't go for the filled ones, though. You like
I like the Boston
cake
Cream.
ones. Yeah.
What's your
Chocolate,
favorite
chocolate.
donut?
What's your favorite donut?
Probably a Boston Cream.
Ugh.
Oh.
Worst overrated donut.
Because of the custard. It's not cream.
That
I'll tell you.
Boston cream pie.
The overrated,
Terrible.
the most
Terrible.
overrated donut is unquestionably the jelly donut.
Oh, no.
Wow.
Awful.
You're
What's wrong
insulting
with
my
you?
dad for a second show in a row who loves
Awful.
jelly donuts.
I love Mr. Deuce. I said no such thing, Michael.
I love jelly donuts, but I find them too decadent, so I don't eat them. You know?
What's that even mean?
No one knows.
You know what's an underrated donut? Is the chocolate
glazed donut.
Oh, yeah.
Not the chocolate frosted, the chocolate
No,
glazed.
chocolate
donut.
glaze, that would be my second favorite.
That's what I was gonna say. Chocolate glaze.
And I'm not a huge chocolate guy, but that
you
would
know
be my
why?
second favorite.
It goes so well with the hot coffee.
Oh, see, I
Like
don't
they
know coffee.
blend so well.
I don't know from coffee.
Flavor complementary. Yeah.
I would agree with that. That's my
So,
favorite.
Fred, I saw this morning that someone tweeted out that big sort of first round rookie quarterback EPA chart.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, I have no idea how to read those charts, and every once in a while, I
Top
think
right
I
is
should
good.
I should go.
no,
I
listen,
should go over.
You want to
to-
be in the top right.
I should go to Evan and find out. So anyway,
I just explained it.
it gets put out there. I don't know how to read it, and Fred goes, I don't know what this means, but this eyeball, so I assume it's good for Drake.
Right.
And I was going to retweet you and say, nobody knows what it means, but it's provocative.
Oh, no, but it's funny that you say that because I was listening to one of your shows a couple days ago.
Yeah.
And they started bringing up EPA, and Greg was on, and I was hoping to get an explanation, but
And he couldn't
didn't
do
even
it.
know what it means.
Even you and your ilk, Evan.
Yeah.
But it wasn't
me
necessarily
to
like the
explain it or
EPA
again?
part that I didn't. It
only
was
got
the
10 minutes
chart.
left.
Like I don't
I
really
don't
know
have
how to
time.
read the chart.
Yeah,
Like
well, I
it
know
has.
if
It
you're
has
in the
this
upper,
bottom.
if
this-
you're in the upper right quadrant, you're good. I
right,
know that,
but
right?
the
Right.
bottom.
Upper right.
The
Right.
bottom
Upper
is
right.
about pass protection,
Yes.
and then like everybody's all over the place. So like, could I extrapolate from that chart that very few guys have been better than Drake Maye, like C.J. Stroud last year, Jalen Daniels. Like, is that because they were higher?
Well, Cam
Yes.
Newton was in that
So-
quadrant.
Well, he
and so
was-
was Deshaun Watson.
You wanna be
but
in
they
the-
were both unbelievable.
You
is what
want to
I'm
be in the
saying.
top right. You
Yeah.
don't want to be in the bottom left.
Yeah.
where
Okay.
Jared Goff was.
So the top in this chart that was put out today, what it's saying is that Drake Maye is doing a very, very good job against a bad offensive behind a bad
Right.
offensive line.
And I kind of understood. I was
Yeah.
kind of joking.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
me
got
too.
that.
And on my comment, all the quants are like, explaining it to me.
I don't
Yeah.
need it explained because I don't care because I have two eyes and I can watch and I can say the quarterback's playing well.
Yeah.
Do you want
beyond
me
his
to define
years,
EPA,
so to
or are we
speak.
good?
And we know that it's a
We're
bad
out of
offensive
time.
line. I don't need a statistic to tell me that.
I mean, you can if you want to say what just for the listeners, like the expected.
Yeah. So
Point, whatever.
it stands for expected points added, but the biggest thing that you have to take from it is that 0 is average, right? So 0 is the league average. So if you're below 0, then you're bad. If you're above 0, then you're good. And so basically what it looks at is the last 10 years of permutations of on 1st and 10 from the 25, the league average is that they gain 3.5 yards. So if the Patriots were to gain 5 yards instead of 3.5 yards, they would be adding points to their expected total. That's it.
Why can't the average be what the average is instead of 0?
Well, it's just the scale.
I know, but like
But it makes more
They
sense.
have to it just bothers me.
But it's
They have
much
to
more digestible
overcomplicate
that
it.
way.
The league average is 3 yards on first down, but they have to make it 0.
Well, it's because it's more digestible that way.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. If the league average is 3 and I do 5, I'm 2 better than the league average. I mean, how? That's not difficult. That's really simple.
To some people.
For everybody. That's the point. Why not make it fun for everyone instead of just people that went to MIT?
That horse has left the barn. Sports are no longer fun for anyone,
I think
let alone everyone.
The biggest thing, though, is the reason, people like on your shows, Paul, will say, well, what's wrong with yards, right? Well, the problem with yards is like if it's 3rd and 10, right, and Drake Maye throws a 9-yard pass, is that a good play or a bad play? It's a bad play.
Pretty
They didn't
good.
get the first down.
It's a non-efficient play.
Right.
What would you say the play would be rated if it's 3rd and 5 and a guy runs an 8-yard out route and is like 2 yards in the clear, but it goes incomplete? How would you grade the corner?
Oh, jeez.
That's a different conversation.
Well,
You're changing
exactly.
the
So,
conversation.
but I'm just telling you, if we did everything the same way, then I would agree with
But
you.
those are PFF grades.
But we just go 0 for 1, 0 passer rating, even though he got beat like a drum. I'm just talking. This is cornerback X here.
Right.
I'm not giving anybody assignment on this particular play.
No.
I'm just saying in
You're not
general,
placing blame.
it's
You could do
all
Marco
about
Wilson
the
if you
results.
want. I mean,
Like that is all strictly about the result of the play. But,
No context.
But the other play, we can't just go by the result of the play. We have to put context in it.
Yeah, so that's a totally different thing. But that's the whole point is that if you gain 9 yards on 3rd and 9, in the box score, 9 yards per pass attempt is really, really good. But in theory, that's a failed play.
Yeah.
So the idea is that EPA calculates whether you actually move the chains in that situation versus just picked up a bunch of yards.
So there used to be a definition of an efficient run. It was a run for 4 more yards, a run for a first down, or that resulted in a score.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's simple.
That still exists.
That's simple. I know it still exists.
Yeah,
So let's just go by that.
It's 7 for a pass, right?
It depends on the first and 10. It all depends on how many of the yards you get on first down.
40%, I think.
Yeah, 40%.
Yeah.
Then second down's a little bit. Yeah.
Listen,
Third down's a first down.
If you can't explain it in layman's terms, then it has no use to me. You know what I mean?
I like success rate.
You're a little angry.
I think we got a good rant for next week's show.
Well,
Slide up another.
I'm a fan of success rate. I think success rate's a good stat.
Sure. All right. Dan writes in, I really don't like hearing Mayo say we have enough talent to win football games. In my opinion, that couldn't be more false.
But why would you not like to have your coach be complimentary of his
he
players?
says, do you think that he really believes that, or is he just throwing Wolf a bone since he's been catching heat? If he / the organization does believe that, I'm extremely concerned about this coming off season. A coach has to say that.
Yeah, I think he's trying to have the backs of his players.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think it's to
That's
throw
coach
Elliot
speak.
Wolf a bone.
Right. It's coach speak. Right.
I think he's trying to back his players. Like, I believe in you. You guys can play.
Yeah.
We have enough talent to win games
Yeah.
here.
Now I hope behind closed doors he's saying to Elliot,
we got to
we
get
need better players.
We got to get better.
Right.
Of course,
Well,
he
that
does.
was when we were talking about. I think we said this off air. I don't know if we said this on air, but we were talking about the whole Gonzalez thing on the boundary, and and I'm not one to talk on this, but it's overcomplicating the situation. At the end of the day, their players made plays and your players didn't. And where Gonzalez was lining up and all that kind of stuff, that still only takes care of one of the receivers. So who's got Kupp, right? If you put him on Nakua.
Even if you operate under the premise that Gonzalez took somebody man-to-man and completely eliminated him from the game, which to me is a huge stretch. But let's just say that you're still not necessarily in much better shape.
Yeah.
Because now they just find the other matchups and exploit the guy that Gonzalez isn't covering. Plus, maybe you get more of Demarcus Robinson, who has been really good for them.
No, I get it, but their best 2 players had the best 2 games, and he was on neither one of them.
But it makes it so simplistic to just say, well, maybe they should have doubled Kupp and had Gonzalez take Nakua man for man all day. That would be the magic elixir. No chance they're going to move.
No, with Matthew Stafford,
they'd have scored
they still
28.
would have moved the ball. But I listen, when you have something like a Gonzo, it's the same thing as having a great receiver, a great running back. You got to use them. You got to use them.
You say so. I don't know.
I don't know. Danny's in Daytona. What's up, Danny?
Hey, what's going on, Frank?
Are you actually at the track?
Right. I think he's taking laps.
Can you guys hear me?
I don't know. Tell your pit crew to keep it down.
So, I had a couple gripes. I wanted to gripe about Belichick, roster building that left the Patriots devastated. I know we've already harped on this, but the same people he still has in the current office, current regime. I'm not trying to sound pessimistic, but I just don't have any faith in Elliot Wolf or the staff that he put together in the front office. I feel like we're going to get the same of what we have this year, and I think everyone's trying to stay positive, and I'm just being realistic, and I feel like they're not going to do the same exact things that they said they were going to do this year. They're going to go cheap on a left tackle. They're going to probably try and get somebody bummy wide receiver and call him an X, and he's not an X. And they'll probably try to patch the offensive line together. Yeah. And I'm really worried about that going into 2025.
No, it's fair enough, Danny. I'm going to hang up because I'm having trouble here. But
I would just
get
say,
what you're saying.
Can we wait to see what it happens before, like Felger and Maz's commandment? Let's not, criticize someone for something they haven't done yet.
But here's the thing. It's fair to say that the same people who were involved when we were criticizing Bill are still here. So the question is, how much of it was collaboration when Bill was here? And if you think, Matt Groh and Elliot Wolf had a lot of say, then there is a little cause for concern if you didn't like what they did before this.
I just think there's no way of answering that.
There isn't.
and
Well,
that's
proof's
why
going to be in the pudding.
I know, and that's why I just think about this year's rookie class. For better or worse at this point, and Drake Maye is certainly a big positive, but I just threw out Layden Robinson as a guy who, is Michael Jordan. He can't beat out Michael Jordan. I mean, like that to me is one of the places. I mean, I know Caden Wallace is out right now, but I would just look for those two guys to somehow get involved and maybe think that those guys have a spot on that offensive
line. And just
line.
because they didn't have a great offseason this year doesn't mean that they won't have a better one next year. And this has got nothing to do with whether it was a collaboration or, the similarity is that what the caller said, they tried to sort of patch it with a left tackle. We're not going to go out and get big money for a left tackle. We're going to try to patch it with a left tackle. And we're not going to take it early in the draft, early enough to address it in the draft. Right? We're going to – that doesn't mean that they're always going to do that. I don't think we're going to find out how much say they had when Bill was here, regardless of what happens. Will they go out and spend some money in free agency, and will they be better at drafting players? We don't know. I mean, but why do you have hope? Because you have a quarterback, and I don't think it's as hard now to get a wide receiver that can make an impact. You don't have to get the greatest wide receiver ever because he's going to make him look better. He made Kendrick Bourne look better the other day.
And you're not picking that receiver at 37 or that tackle at 68. You're now potentially picking that receiver or tackle or at 7 or wherever they end up in the first round.
Fred's theory.
Yeah. And I just say signs to me are pointing that they've got to spend some money this offseason and give out some contracts, and it's not going to go to in-house guys because those guys are already taken care of. There's nobody in-house to really worry about. So they got to give out some big contracts.
You can't go this year. The free agent signings were really the guy
that's
they
a great
re-signed.
point, Mike.
Yeah,
because there's no one that's up that's going to require big money, right?
Nobody. We've done that in the past. All right, that's going to be it for this edition of Patriots Unfiltered. We'll be back tomorrow at noon with another edition. We'll talk to you then.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.
The world's original podcast.